Grimerica newsletter.
It's my opinion that I think this is supposed to be fun, being in body, and maybe half the fun is the experimentation of like, what are the upper limits?
Okay, guys, welcome back to the Grimerica Show. We are going to be chatting with Michael Wann a little bit later about Susquehanna Alchemy and Graham's star chart. I never got mine yet.
Starboard,
star chart, same thing. It's a chart on a board. I didn't get mine yet, so we won't be able to talk about that. But that'll be fun to talk about maybe just a little further down the line.
You might not even get yours at all.
You think he's just like bucket?
He's like that Darren guy. No.
I thought he liked me. He seemed nice.
Yeah, he did.
Anyway, got Graham crammed in the corner Dunlop. How's it going, buddy? And of course, we got...
Pretty good.
You feeling crammed over there?
No, I'm okay.
You okay?
Yeah.
You look crammed. We should get some little jail bars on behind you. Little jail
Cram
thing.
gram.
Yeah.
Now it's gonna be cram
gram. Spam crammed gram. Welcome to the show, Jason.
Hey, thanks.
Welcome to the studio.
Thank you.
You're the second person to come here.
Wow.
When was it you said I could come on your show, we'll talk about stuff, and then all of a sudden you're here? Like I think it was yesterday or today or something.
Yeah, because I was on a bit of a road trip for work and binge watching the shows, and I started commenting, and because you read out one of my emails.
Oh,
and
that's
like,
right.
Yeah, and then you're like, oh, well, come by the show, and I'm like, well, when do you do it? And you're like, well, Wednesdays. I'm like, cool. How about tomorrow? I'll swing by. I want to check out the studio and see how it looks. And
I mean, I was planning on we were planning on doing like a whole episode with you and maybe somebody else from our CE5 group or something like that. But I thought, hey, we're doing the intro now. You might as well join us while you're here and check out the space, because maybe we can do some like Reiki classes and stuff in here. You never know.
No, it's awesome, and like the space is fantastic, and a little bit. It's crazy. I think people listen to podcasts and think it's easy, but like looking around at all your gear and all the setup you got to do. So I wasn't told to say this, but man, people got to man up and support the show. Holy cow.
Gear acquisition syndrome is a real thing. You know, the funny thing is half the time this fucking gear seems to cause more problems than it helps.
Yeah, I mean, actually, we worked out gear, but we try to do it with good quality.
We do it live to tape, and live to tape. I don't want to spend any time editing this shit. We got some complaints last time over the audio. We've had a bad run of audio. Really, it is a little frustrating. Moved in the new space. We had some problems at Brody's. It actually turned out to be a failing EQ. This one in the middle that we're not using anymore.
But then we've had like that little hub there blow and the other hub blow, and it's like jingling. I mean, the stuff just goes. So the more gear you got, the more.
The EQ's been the worst yet, because it took like a month and a half or 2 months to die. Because you'd start out and everything would sound fucking hunky dory, and then it would get hotter and hotter. And as the gear got hotter, it would slowly start to fizzle and pop. And then last week we were recording the intro and it just pop. Just fucking popped and shut off halfway through the show. So it was almost a blessing in disguise, because now we know what the problem is.
Yeah, now we should have better audio from here on out.
Hopefully. We might need more curtains. I got a new curtain. Lisa got me a new curtain.
Yeah, we need to soften up the space still a little bit.
So we might add like just another curtain over there that pulls across the window maybe.
So before I forget,
so nice to have a window, though.
Before I forget, this Michael Wann episode was fantastic, and he did my star chart, and I did put pictures of that, just one picture of it, so people, because we wanted people to see what this was like. It's a very visual thing. So check out our Instagram, and you can see a picture there.
I was hoping it was Sasquatch Alchemy, but that's okay. Next time.
That's why Jason's here.
What is Sasquatch Alchemy?
We don't know.
I have no idea. That's why I was so excited.
I mean, it kind of sounds like your encounters with Sasquatch in a way. I mean,
yeah, no, I've had some interactions, and I saw one once, which was very cool.
Was that recently? Was that when you were having those same like kind of time frame as those sort of encounters in the trailer?
Yeah, it was the encounters in the trailer. So that would have been 2016 in the summer. And when I saw Saw the big guy. It was December. It's actually right. I think it might have even been Christmas Eve or just a couple of days before Christmas Eve.
Wow, really?
December 2016. Yeah.
Do you want to? I mean, we can't just say that and then move on from there. So we should probably just jump right into that. I mean,
I assume, did you have a firearm?
No.
Oh. No.
I think Jason's on my side about the don't shoot, right?
Not even don't shoot. I would jump in front.
See, I've got the shirt on right here.
Yeah.
Jake fucking save Sasquatch.
Huh. The calves could have been bigger.
Yeah. And quite honestly, if we were driving to try and interact with Sasquatch and people started joking, I'd be like, get the fuck out of my truck. You'd be walking home.
That's it. Get the fuck off of my podcast. We have guns in the front just in case we have a sighting. They're musket style. What about trank them? Can we trank them?
No.
Nothing?
And because you wouldn't be able to hit them, right? Would you? I mean,
honestly, they're incredibly psychic beings. They're multi-dimensional, interdimensional, however you want to look at it. Chances of you getting anywhere near them with a gun, I think, are pretty slim. So,
And then you hear those stories about the hunters that do, and then when they look at it in the eyes, they can't pull the trigger. You know?
Well, exactly, and that's like what happened when the sighting I had. I was with a friend, and my friend didn't see him, and it messed with my mind to the point where I didn't even, for not even a brief second, did the thought cross my mind to say, hey, look over here, like, look what I'm looking at. And I didn't even think for a second to reach in my pocket and pull out my cell phone and take a picture. I just sit there staring at this thing. So do you want me to just tell the story about how I saw it? Okay. Yeah. So again, this was like December 2016. This was after we had some interactions camping. So there's a spot, and it's actually not even far from Calgary. I don't want to say exactly where it is. It's near Bray Creek. So, I mean, like from my house, it's not even an hour drive. And we head out there, and my buddy had been shown this spot by someone who claims to have had many sightings and interactions with a family of them there. So I kept bugging him, and when she took him out there, she said it was the first time in years that she hadn't had an interaction. So first thing is they're very selective on who they interact with. They, they read your energy and intention, and they get to know you before you even know they're there. But they went out there, nothing happened. So he was quite disappointed, and it took me a few months of bugging. I'm like, let's go out. So finally we went out. So we go to the specific spot, and I'll try and paint a mental picture. So it's in trees, and this particular spot, there's some a lot of overturned trees, and some of them we sit on. So if you can imagine just one big overturned tree where a few people can sit. About 10 feet away from that tree, there's another one that's overturned, but it creates a kind of a blind because it's overturned. So there's all this dirt and mud in the roots. So it creates this big barrier. It's a big circle barrier. It's about 12 feet around. So it's huge. It's a lot you can't see. So my buddy is sitting down on the one log, and we're in front of this big overturned tree. So we're just sitting there. It was my first time there. And I get up and just kind of start wandering around to kind of see what's on the other side of this big overturned, creating this huge blind. And I'm kind of more beside it now, and just kind of looking around and taking in, it's nice being out in the forest and stuff, taking everything in. And so then I look off in the distance, like, it's maybe, I don't know, 100 feet away. I see the Sasquatch. So it's kind of squatted down on its haunches, like squatted down, and
like forwards on his forelegs, or like squatted down on his back legs, kind of.
Yeah, like kind of like sitting on his ankles, sort of. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And I would say even at that, 6 feet tall, pretty much that wide.
So you could tell it wasn't a bear, like it was.
I'm here. I didn't get.
You think he was pooping?
Oh, maybe he squatted. Yeah.
Oh, maybe. I never thought about that.
Seen about some scat.
Leave it to Darren.
Yeah.
Did he have a squatty potty?
Well, hey, fuck those motherfuckers.
Oh, okay. What? Calm down.
The squatty potty people. I'm still upset with them.
I feel like there's a history there.
Well,
Yeah,
we were friends. And I asked them to come on the show.
Oh.
They just went radio silent, unfollowed us,
What the hell?
never came back.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I mean, I freely promote the squatty potty. They've never given us a dime. I've been accused of being a squatty potty shill. And these guys won't come on the show.
Wow. Well, fuck them.
Yeah.
But that's right. We need actually a squatty potty for the studio.
I know. I was thinking about it today. It's a high toilet too, so my feet can't even hit the ground.
So you're going to need like a 14-incher. Do your feet seriously not hit the ground?
I can't remember. I was thinking it's high. It's high. My toes probably.
I didn't think about that ground's feet hanging there. Kicking. Like my kid. Oh, what a mental picture.
So,
It is a
anyways,
pretty
okay,
high
let's get
toilet.
back to the squatting
Sure,
squatch.
sure. So the Sasquatch squatting down, kind of sitting on his ankles, and like, so yeah. Again, I'm just gonna say it again, just to get an idea of the size of this guy. Like 6 feet, squatted down, and just about as wide. Like he was massive. And I'm looking at him, and I mean, I can see it's definitely not a bear. I mean, I can see his face, I can see his hair. Like something, he was close enough. I could see definition in different colors and like streaks in his hair, and I could see his arms, and he's just staring at me, and I'm staring back at him. Now, the interesting thing was, so between myself, him off to my left, to the right is my buddy. So if you can imagine that triangle, right? Now, directly in between my buddy and the Sasquatch is that big overturned tree. So it's like, you know, he's being selective in who he appeared to, which I think, you know, pretty much ticked off my buddy. He was upset.
Yeah.
But, you know, so I'm just staring and I'm looking at, and again, like, the thought didn't even cross my mind to be like, hey, Chad, come check this out.
Yeah.
The thought didn't even cross my mind to reach in my pocket, pull up my cell phone, and take a picture. I'm just staring. I'm like, holy cow, I can't believe this. I'm actually seeing a Sasquatch. And, you know, the interaction, like you mentioned, I had earlier in the year in the summer, like that stuff was like just mind blowing. So I knew there was Sasquatch, and that happened in a very, very close area too. So, I mean, I knew they were around, so it wasn't a surprise in that way. It was just like a surprise, like, wow, he's appearing to me, like, you know, who the hell am I? You know, so I'm just staring, and I'm just in disbelief, and my brain turned to mush, because the only thing I could think to verify, I didn't think start walking towards them, because I mean, I'm not the least bit afraid of them. Yeah. I mean, it'd tear me apart, but it's not going to.
No.
So, you know, I don't think, hey, maybe I should just walk over, get a little closer and see if he'll, you know, fist bump or something. My thoughts to prove that, you know, this is real and this actually happened. My brain came up with the plan. And I mean, I'm totally sober, by the way. Like, this is just, my brain went to mush. And my plan is, I'm going to look away and stop paying attention to him. And when I look back in a couple minutes and he's gone, then I'll know that it was actually there.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, that's the most ridiculous
logic. But I mean, I was going to ask you. You said he was maybe psychic and multidimensional. So when you were there and you don't think about even calling to your friend or taking a picture, because I mean, taking a picture is one of the last things I want to do if I'm seeing a UFO, for example. Right. So I understand that thing. I don't want that moment to end. I don't want to miss any of it. So any fucking around with a camera or whatever. And
live in the moment, have the experience, right?
So. But do you think
can't
there was
get a
some
UFO shot anyway, but you can get a Bigfoot shot.
Yeah.
Oh, actually, well, I'll show you after we're done this intro. I'll show you my UFO shots from ESEti.
Oh,
okay. So, do you think he played any part?
Yeah, absolutely.
Help. Send help.
So it wasn't just your brain. No. Like he might have even told you look away.
I guarantee us being influenced. Like, absolutely. Like there was, there's some influencing there. So I did. So I looked away, and it was the strangest thing. Because immediately, as soon as I looked away, I totally forgot he was there. I wasn't like, you know, looking around and like, I'm going to look back. I completely, this one of the most amazing things ever happened in my life. I immediately forgot. Like, it sounds ridiculous, I know, but this is what happened. And then another thing, just to be clear, this area, these trees, it's winter, there's no leaves. It's bare trees. The trees are, 15, 20 feet apart. It's not like super thick or anything. So for him to have, first of all, being that big and walked to that close to us, should have heard something, but didn't. So there's a lot of people, they talk about them being multidimensional, and they'll say, well, I saw them walking and all I could see was the top half. Their legs aren't there, because when they're like that, they're silent. So, there's that aspect. How did he get there? And so I looked away, forgot he was there, and just started talking to my buddy and just gawking around some more. And a couple minutes later, my buddy and I were talking and we're looking at each other. And all of a sudden, like, I can remember it like it just happened, over my left shoulder. If you can imagine somebody whoever your favorite baseball player is, like the biggest home run hitter, going up to a telephone pole with a Louisville Slugger baseball bat, cracking it over the telephone pole and like breaking it because it's so hard. I hear this wood knock behind me and it sounds like it's 10, 15 feet back. Just crack. Huge noise, just like resonated like within my chest. And my buddy and I just lock eyes. And we both, like the face you're doing to me, Graham, right now, just eyes wide. And we just like freeze for like 2-3 seconds. And we're both at the same time. We're like, that was so fucking cool. And then we both turn around and look. And of course, there's nothing there. And again, this is not dense like forest where like something could be running in and out and hiding. Like we should have been able to see it. Yeah. And then we're just looking and we start kind of looking around. And then we start hearing crack from up to the left, crack from like off in the distance, crack straight above us. It's like all these wood knocks are just surrounding us. And we're looking where they're coming from. We keep looking. There's nothing in top of the trees. They're just, so they're, I don't know what you want to say, if they're in their multidimensional cloaking or whatever, right? So then we started interacting. We actually started asking them questions, and we worked it out that if we get a crack or a wood knock, it's a yes. If it's silence, it's no. So we're like, is it okay that we're here? We get a wood knock. Is it okay if we come back? We get a wood knock. I'm trying to think. We didn't get a whole lot of no's, but it was like, we started asking about certain people we knew that would be interested. Can we bring this person here to meet you? Knock. Can we bring this person? Silence. Like, should we keep this location, kind of secretive and only to trusted people? And like, yes, that sort of thing. So that went on. It was probably 45 minutes of question and answer with Sasquatch.
I don't think you've ever told me that part.
Oh no,
in that much detail.
Yeah. I'm surprised. I love telling this story. I'm like, if I'm on a train, I'll just like randomly tell strangers.
What kind of question? What was the best question? Yes or no is tough.
Yeah.
The best question I asked them,
like, did you ask them any UFO questions or anything like that?
Oh man, no.
Like, well, because there's a connection there.
Don't cross-pollinate the streams.
No, I didn't even think of anything like that.
Next time, ask if I can come.
Okay, I'm sure they wouldn't mind as long. Oh, they'd love to make it believer out of you because you guys have a good reach, right?
That's right. Sasquatch can come on the show. We could actually take I wonder, they probably wouldn't do it if we had the recorder. But if we had the recorder,
that's the other thing.
Yeah, because you see those trail cam videos where they know where the infrared is and they'll just like kind of reach in with sticks and they can see that spectrum, right? And I mean, I firmly believe. I mean, it's funny because like even a lot of people who believe and think there's Sasquatch out there, but you get into the multidimensional and they're psychic and they're like, okay, now it's too much. But I've gone out there with people and we're on the ride out there and they start talking shit and bitching and moaning about different stuff. I'm like, you guys really think like they know we're coming right now, and they probably are listening in. It's like somehow they're aware of where our heart's at right now. Like we should be kind of more respectful and not talking about people that you're angry at or whatever. Like just go in with loving intent. Like that's what it comes down to. Like,
kind of the same as our CE5 groups and meetings, right? I mean, that's one of the key things is cohesiveness and just having love in your heart instead of negativity, right?
Yeah, exactly. And like what I'd like to do, because when I was texting you, Celia suggested I need to start leading a CE5 group just to open up the dates so it's not just once a month, and also have it plant medicine friendly.
Yeah. So
right.
Darren's invited to that one.
So if you can't,
Well, that's right. They found a workaround to keep. You found a workaround
No,
to keep.
everybody's asking you to go. I mean, I invited you last weekend.
And then you said no weed.
Well, that's
Then you said you. Then you said I think I can get you in.
yeah. well, now it's okay. You have an option, and I honestly, I don't remember last time I went to a CE5 and didn't have something really cool happen.
I mean,
Every
we
time
see
it
stuff
works.
whenever we go stargazing.
Yeah.
For sure. Wife and I are going out to the mountains next weekend. It'll be interesting. to
But
see
the
what
key is like get the low flyer to land. I mean, there's a low flyer that comes around. We've seen it. I've only seen it twice.
Which one are you
multiple
talking about?
The low flyer that we saw at mile 13 there.
The one we saw twice in one night?
Yeah, and then the other night up north a little further, we saw it again.
Was I there
once.
for that one?
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's so many things have happened, but yeah, I mean, I can attest most of Graham's stories. I've listened to them, and I was there for most of them, and they actually happened. And if anything, I think you almost understate how cool they are sometimes. It's like, man, it was way cooler than you're making it sound.
Well, it's hard because I don't want to sound like I'm just all
Understate. Have you heard the
fanboy
jingle?
ever.
Yeah, well, of course.
He sounds pretty excited to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I do know what you mean, though.
Yeah. Well, you don't.
it's-
Yeah, because you don't want to make it sound more so super fantastical that people are like, yeah, okay, you watched a movie.
It's
or
hard to
something, but-
convey to people the
Yeah.
excitement of a group when you see like a series of flashbulbs, sometimes answering questions that you're asking,
Oh, yeah.
or you see a low flying, silent, bright light. It's a craft. It's not just a light. It's a craft coming through fairly low. Like
Yeah.
and we're all just attuned to that thing, and we're all excited and having a great
Well,
time. I mean, it's
yeah.
hard to convey that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And then like it's funny because there's been a few times where we'll start seeing something and then it'll flash a few times, and then it kind of slows down. And like there's been times where Graham and I both jumped up and we're like, "Come on again!" And we just get like all jacked up and we're like laughing, having fun, and they respond to it. And they also like if anybody has a CE5 group, another thing I've always found they seem to respond to is when you sit around and just share your stories.
Yeah.
They love it when you're sharing your stories, and they'll start. Sometimes that brings them on. They're like, yeah, like talk about this show. It's like showing appreciation, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
that's what we realized that is not a bad thing to do. In between meditations and stuff like that, when everybody's just looking around at the sky, you can just chit chat about your stories and build that group cohesiveness. Because it's cool because
the cohesiveness.
you're also in a group.
I don't know how to cohese.
You're doing it right now on the show. Well,
Okay.
you're not really. I mean, you're kind of resisting it, but
yeah, like I don't know. And like for me, like I like the meditation at the beginning, but like it's not going to be when I'm leading into groups. It's not going to be like a constant like let's do a meditation. Like my meditations, like it'll be a quick and it'll be a visualization, and it's like. It's a sacred experience, but it's going to be a fun one too. It's not, if people are, well, I mean, we don't want to have kids if people are going to be smoking weed, but I mean, like people have said, well, can I bring my 6-year-old daughter? Like Shauna, she likes, she's asked if she can bring her daughter Lola. I'm like, absolutely, because it's going to be fun. It's not going to be boring.
yeah.
I don't mean in any way Celias are boring. Celias are great, but a kid might have a little bit of trouble if we're meditating every once in a while. The kid's going to have a hard time sitting through that. So, it'll be fun for kids and Darren alike.
So what do you consider plant medicine then? You mentioned plant medicine. So you're talking about like weed and mushrooms.
Your cannabis,
and stuff like that.
mushrooms, DMT.
Now we're talking.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Yeah. So would I be able to go and not partake in that?
You're fucking out. No, we don't know. I think I can get you in. I think I can get you in.
We need a driver.
Yeah, I'll drive. Yeah, I'll drive. Yeah.
I got room for 6 in the truck. So
I'm the designated driver. You could drive the Dodge.
We'll probably go and then I'll see something and nobody else will. Or the other way around. Yeah.
Graham said he wasn't coming around us on mushrooms anymore. He said
I've had enough of that.
He's had enough.
No more chaperoning on the shrooms.
We're just gonna trick him next time. You won't know till it's too late.
Yeah.
What are you eating? Sunflower seed shells.
Yeah. That's a good idea though, so we can have it on 2 different nights and all.
Yeah.
So if there is anybody in the local Calgary area that are interested, just look us up, Instagram, email, all that stuff.
Yep.
And we can, now that, because I'm going to be leading the few in the next few months. I think Celia is away. And then when we go away to contact the cabin in Colorado in May, I want to do some CE5 listeners.
Yeah, I heard about that. I wish I could go to that. That sounds
that'll be
pretty
fun.
awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, you'll lead some events down there. Eh?
Yeah.
But I also heard you guys, I'm going to call you out right now. You said you're going to go to ESEti. You're going to do an event at ESEti?
I know. We do. I mean, my girlfriend really wants to go too. We do want to go.
The first event might bankrupt us yet.
And I've got another fellow that he was at a C5 group. He's been at ESEti, and he was. I wanted him to come and talk about his experience there.
Well, the thing is, have either of you ever talked to James?
Well, Celia got his number, but I've never connected with him. But before I forget, I just want to mention that
you're the first other person I've met in the community. You're the second person I've met in the community.
Yeah, in the community, CE5 community.
The CE5 community, I guess.
Yeah, you're the guy that I read your email last. I think it was last intro about that sighting.
Well, yeah, the most recent episode. Yeah, that was awesome because I flip it on for my 5.5 hour trip for work. 5.5 there, 5.5 back, and then you start to go about this email from Jason, and I'm like, wow, is that mine? And it was funny because there's like, oh, he doesn't even know you're reading. Like, oh fuck, he's cool, he won't care. And I was like, yeah, read it.
Nice.
But that only happened 2 weeks ago. Yeah. And that was funny because the synchronicity about that, I mean, I don't need to revisit it because you just told the story, but like I'm literally driving thinking about, first of all, ordering. I've got a crystal skull in my hand that I was debating ordering, and I was like, no, I'm not gonna. That I'm like, yes, I am. And simultaneously, I'm also thinking I got to start doing more CE5 events and start getting out to them and start leading them. And the thought about daytime UFO sightings, probably 5 minutes before that, I had the thought about, I bet if I started doing more CE5s, like I'd probably start seeing some daytime UFO. Like, I mean, the lights are cool, but like the daytime UFO sighting is kind of
physical,
a little bit more
kind of stuff,
closer to the Holy Grail, right? And then it happens, and I'm just like, okay, well, if this isn't a sign that I need to act on my thoughts that I've just been having, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's a good idea. The daytime. Celia was talking about somebody that's been doing a lot of daytime work, and that would be interesting to do that in the summer and just go out in the woods and do the daytime.
Or even, I think like I'm going for a surgery next week. It's not a big deal, but I'm gonna be
vibes.
Yeah, thanks, buddy. I'm gonna be down and out for like a week, maybe 2, and then I would really like to go up to near the spot where I had my Sasquatch sighting and do a CE5 there during the day.
Yes.
Because there's a very close little hill that was part of it was, okay, so over here, is where the Sasquatch stuff happened. And by the way, this hill, there's tons of UFO activity that people have seen. Like it's kind of well known. And that area, the very first time, it was before like I had been, I had seen Dr. Greer's movies and stuff, but I don't think I'd even met Celia at that point. So I was like interested in the CE5 thing. So I told my buddies, we went out, did Sasquatch during the day, drove to like Millerville for supper, and then went back out at night. And all we did was sit around some chairs and watch the sky. We didn't know what the hell we were doing. I think I played Dr. Greer's crop tones or something. And looking towards the Pleiades, like we love those Pleiades. We have good luck with them every time, right? When they're visible. And looking towards the Pleiades, and we started seeing these massive flash bulbs. Like we had like 30 of them right by the Pleiades, and they were responding to us. Like it was like, can you please do that again? Flash a laser, and it would do it. And that was, all it was just, peaceful, loving intent. Yeah. There was no meditation. There was none of that.
Yeah.
So it's not like, it doesn't take a lot for people if they're listening and want to know, well, I'm not going to have an experience. Like, yeah, you will. You go out there with love in your heart and, just belief and good intention. Like it doesn't take a lot of experience. You don't have to go out there with somebody that's had all kinds of experiences. Anybody can have these experiences. And then you have one, and it just, it boosts your confidence. And I think that actually helps too.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah,
I went years without him. I mean, really, back in the day, like we didn't see anything. Like
what was the problem, do you think? Cohesiveness?
I don't know. I don't think they were ready to visit. They're ready. They're coming.
Do you think it was a global problem then? It wasn't a ground problem?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. There's a lot of, there's a lot to unpack. There's a lot to unpack there.
I think a lot of it too, like I don't know how to explain it, but just like intuitively, I just feel like the biggest thing is it's just time. And a lot of my, like different things like we're asking about, like, I've seen kind of visions and on different, kind of journeys with plants and that. And this next 5 years, there's going to be a lot of things happening. And I think these like this daytime UFO sighting I had 2 weeks ago, that was like, it wasn't my first daytime UFO sighting, but that was like the best one. And I just think these things are just going to start happening more and more for everybody. Like 100th monkey thing, people start being more accepting of it and receptive. It's just going to start snowballing. And that's where disclosure is going to be. It's going to be, okay, like we're seeing stuff like, we don't need the president or the prime minister or anybody else to tell us, okay, this is real. Like we're just going to start experiencing it and we're going to start seeing it. Yeah. And more people, it's just, and even now, like it's even just in the last few years when you talk about these things, like there's just the chances of being ridiculed for talking about something like this, whether it be Sasquatch or UFOs, it's going down and down and down.
It's almost not even there. I mean, look at what we're talking about. People email in all the time. We talk about our experience on the show, and that's been, so now your story is reaching, thousands and thousands of people, and everybody's being able to talk about it. Yeah. Like for the first time in a long time, we can just feel comfortable about talking about our experience. Yeah.
And the biggest thing is just trust your eyes. You're seeing what you're seeing. Stop doubting it. But I mean, it's funny, like even like, I've been working in a construction company for over 5 years now, and I started being more open even with the guys I work with and their construction workers, and I'm thinking, these guys are going to think I'm nuts, and they're like, no, they either want to hear the story, want to know how they can experience it, or they're telling me their stories.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So, it's just time to open a dialogue.
Yeah.
Just start talking about it. Like, share your post, like post on your social media, whatever.
Fucking yelling at each other and calling each other names.
Yeah. Exactly.
Motherfuckers. I've had just about enough of that shit. I really have. Sick of it.
Yeah.
Stop threatening to punch people in the face.
I'm going to punch you in the face.
Not you. I mean, okay. Them. Right. So let's get into the ESEti then. Because like, you're right. We said we were going to go there, but now we've got our own trip planned on. I do want to go there.
So here's the thing. I think it would be worth it to reach out to James, because I don't know for sure, but I mean, if you say, hey, we just want to get a group together, go out there and do some CE5s, like it's just going to be going out there to pay for the camping. We can carpool. I mean, I've got a crew cab truck. I see who's got the other crew cab truck out there. Is that one of your guys?
The black one?
Yeah.
That's mine, yeah.
Okay, so we're going out there, 2 black Ram crew cabs, right? We can fit a lot of people in there. So like there doesn't have to be a huge cost for gas. People can meet out there and then just pay for the camping. Like it doesn't have to be a great big expensive event.
That's a good idea.
And the facilities are awesome. I gotta tell you, lots of room for tents. You can bring trailers out there. But then they have got water and like bathrooms. They got like 3 shower stalls in each bathroom, from 3 for men and 3 for women. I'm assuming 3 for the women. I didn't actually go in there, but I would assume they got at least 3. Running water for the toilets. They got like, well water with fresh spring water, or mountain water. It's a great facility. So even if you're, it's not like backwoods camping.
It's not like you have decent to go to do, to necessarily even do all. You can just go there to hang out as well.
You can, and I mean, there's hotels within driving distance if you're not a camper. Yeah. So like, you guys throw something together, and James is an awesome guy. Like, I'm sure he'd love to have something done up. Like, and it doesn't have to be a big expensive thing. You just have to get your ass down there, and if you're not a camper, there's options. Like, it doesn't have to. You're not going to be roughing it by any means. It's a very, very nice area. And the sightings there we had, there was like a lot of people had Sasquatch experiences. I had them the second night. They were messing around with my tent and stuff, and heard them grunting outside my tent. And it was funny, as I was telling the story the next morning, somebody else overheard and came running up like, "You heard that too?" It's like, I thought I was nuts. I'm like, "No, man, was that like
samurai grunting, kind of like that? Like that?
No, it wasn't the samurai chatter. It was just like a normal like kind of, and then like, running there.
See, that would scare a lot of people, right?
It would scare a lot of people.
When I went camping on my own, I heard this thing walking around on the outside. My tent was fucking scared shitless.
Yeah, I know you didn't even leave your tent that whole weekend.
What?
I remember talking about that on the show. You went on, I'm going camping by myself and I'm going to do this and that. And then he's like, what'd you do? I didn't leave the tent.
No, I went for a trail ride.
I got scared. You got trail run when it was still bright out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't leave the tent at night. No, of course not.
That's when the stars are out. What do you want to see? You want
But
the UFO to
now,
come
if I
open up
remember-
the tent?
I should have actually
Stick
watched
its
the
head in
stars.
and say,
It was,
"Hey,
you know what?
girl."
It's just I was tired.
Yeah, but you're not. We've talked about this, I think, before. You're
Tired of
not a
ignoring.
camper, right? You're not a. Camping is something you've recently kind of taken up,
No,
isn't it?
we
Or
used to
have you-
camp when we were kids. All
Well,
the
that's
time
yeah.
and
Okay,
stuff.
me
Yeah,
too.
but, yeah,
and then there was like,
Grandma's very high maintenance.
2 decades of no camping, so I'm trying to get into it the last 3 years again.
Yeah,
And like,
yeah.
I'm kind of a Nancy when I go out into the woods. Like I'm a little scared, and I
Yeah.
don't like to admit that.
Yeah,
But,
yeah.
but it's getting used to it. It's getting back into
yeah.
being in the woods and being in nature. Like, I would hope the bears would leave me alone. Maybe they'd like me. And
I know that's what I always like to think too. That really, the wild animals aren't going to kill you, but then
I ain't afraid
you
of
see
a
these,
bear. Fuck
you
that
see these videos and stuff, and you're like, "Ooh, I guess they can rip your head off."
yeah,
pretty good,
guess they
so.
can. But and
Maybe
you
a
see the
grizzly.
other ones where they just walk by, kind of look at you and like wink and keep walking. So
Yeah.
I guess it depends which bear you got.
Yeah, how hungry it is. Yeah.
But as babies.
So did you see any? Because I hear these stories of the lion-headed beings there.
Well, Matt, how long could we talk on this intro? Because like I had a
It's not really an intro anymore.
Yeah,
Oh.
we might just turn this into an episode.
all
We'll
right.
see how it goes.
okay. Well, that was interesting. Like I got a bit of my ESEti experience was pretty cool. I had I kind of the lion beings I went last summer, so it's 2018 in August, and I went for the Soul Tech conference or Soul Tech gathering, and so that was kind of a big event. But I'd been planning it for several months, and listening to James talk and different things about the lion beings, like they're supposed to be. I don't know if it's completely accurate, but I don't see why it's not. But they're supposed to be like the guardians of the planet. They're kind of taking over that role, whether they are or not. But I started having visions. So if I do a good dose of mushrooms, I'd have these beings that come and talk to me, and they're feline beings. And it happened more than once. Now, and it's frustrating as hell because like sometimes I'd take mushrooms when I was frustrated, and
Simba.
yeah, ESEti logo, I love it.
Yeah.
But you'd
You get frustrated?
well, I would just like if I was just frustrated at 2018 was a frustrating year for me, just generally. A lot of people it was, and sometimes I go home and for the weekend and I'd just be like, man, like I'm gonna take some mushrooms and try and because it's very energetically clearing for me, and I would have these line beings come to me. And I'd talk with them. They'd calm me down. They'd do some energy work on me. I wish I could remember what it was they told me, but I just know I felt a whole lot better after communicating with them. And they felt like family. So these feline beings were coming in quite a bit for me. And I was like really excited to go to ESEti because I just figured it was going to be very life altering. And I remember about a month or so, maybe 5 weeks before I was going to go, I had, there's one night where I was having trouble sleeping. And, it's just one of those nights where you're just like, you want to sleep and you're just mad because you can't sleep and you want to get to sleep, got to get up early for work, whatever. So I got up, went to the washroom, went back to bed. And I only say that just to prove like I was awake. Like this isn't like something I just kind of slipped into a dream. And I laid down and like kind of rolled onto my left side. And I'm laying there just for like a few seconds. I'm like, oh my God, I got to get to sleep. It's like past midnight now. Alarm set for 4:30. And if you can imagine, like everybody who has like say a lab, when you're laying in bed and you feel that lab jump on the bed, you kind of got an idea what that feels like, right? So, except imagine the lab is, probably 200 pounds or so. And instead of jumping from the floor onto the bed, it's more like it feels like it jumped, like it was like on the, like jumped through the ceiling or something. So I'm wide awake and I feel this something jump on my bed, and it shook, it physically shook my bed. And right away, so I'm lying on my left side and I roll onto my back and I sit up. I'm like, what the hell is this? And immediately, intuitively, I just felt like pretty in tune with a lot of things. And it just immediately, it was like, it's not a threat. I knew it wasn't something threatening, and I didn't physically see anything. But I just, anyway, I always make a habit of this, and I say, okay, well, I feel you here. If you're not here for my highest and best good, like, get the fuck out. Something to that effect. And forcefully, with intention. But I already knew it was something that was, whatever it was okay. And I could still feel it there. Like I could, and it was almost like making a slight lower point on my bed. You know what I mean? Like when something's on your bed and it's kind of like, you know, creating that little draw into that area. So I'm like, okay, well, I feel that you're okay and you're here with good intentions.
And you couldn't see it?
No, I couldn't see it yet. So I was like, okay, you're welcome to stay, but I'd really like to know who you are and why you're here, if you can get that across to me, because sometimes I can tune into things, but sometimes it takes me a really long time if I'm trying. You have to figure out how that way to relax. So anyways, so I'm like, as soon as possible, like, let me know who you are and why you're here. And I've had so much weird stuff happen in the last 3 years, like, you know, that it just really didn't faze me that much. I was like, okay, I'm gonna try to go to sleep now. So I lay down and put my hand on my pillow. I'm just laying there. And about 2 minutes later, all of a sudden, all at once, it was all at once. So first I'll describe what I saw. I saw like sort of like a regular lion. If you can imagine like a regular lion, like a male with a mane, but instead of like orange and yellow, it's white and silver and gray. And it was like stepping out of a shadow. So I saw the whole top part of it, and it was kind of like at an angle across its legs. It was like stepping out of a shadow. So I see this lion, and at the exact, like, in an instant, the message I get is, I'm here to help acclimate you to the feline being energies, because you're gonna need to get used to it. So I'm here to be with you to kind of get your energy acclimated to this energy, you know, for when you go to ESEti and beyond.
Did you know at ESEti that ESEti had the lying being?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
I did at the time, but like I wasn't asking for anything like this, and I wasn't thinking anything like that would happen. I just thought I'd go to ESEti, something really great was going to happen. So, but yeah, this was a big surprise. So that's what I got, was this they sent this lion to be with me, and yeah, so I was like, okay, well, that's really awesome. Thank you for letting me know, and kind of went to sleep. And then, yeah, so that was that. So they kind of got me used to the lion energy. And then when I actually went out to ESEti, there's so many experiences at ESEti, but what happened the second last day, so the day before it was time to go, we're sitting around, and it was funny because, you know, when you go to ESEti, like James is really cool. Is, you know, super, super nice guy. But, you know, and there was like 250 people or something there. So it was pretty packed. And to try, I don't know, I asked James right away, do you have any sessions open? He's like, sorry. He's like, I'm booked and got a waiting list, unfortunately. I'm like, okay, no, that's fair enough. I should have been smarter and booked one a long time ago. But
sessions.
Well, he does these transpersonal release sessions, I think he calls them, and then he'll channel the lion beings and see if there's messages for you and stuff like that.
Oh, okay.
And just do energetic healing and releases. So I kept, and I'm also, I'm a little shy. I hate just going up to people and be like, hey, can I bug you with my problem? I like to be respectful of people's time and not bug them. And, it's a working ranch. So he's got a lot to do while we're all there having fun. But so I kept putting it off. I'm like, I'm going to go talk to James. And then finally I'm sitting there watching him, and I was waiting for my chance. And every time there'd be somebody talking to him. And of course I don't want to go stand there and listen in case it's personal. And I'm waiting, and every time, I could tell it was about to wrap up, and then somebody would swoop in. Yeah. So I'm like, you know what? I'm being an idiot. I know exactly what I have to do. So why I don't need to get James to give me permission or validate it. I just need to go do it myself. So they have a really cool medicine wheel there. and they have this other thing, this circle. I can't remember what they call it, like the Palladian circle or something.
Not a labyrinth kind of thing, no?
Well, that's the medicine wheel. They have sort of a labyrinth of rocks, but this other one is just like a circle, and they've got like some stuff around it, and I can't remember all the stuff they've got into, but it's like the circle where people go to meditate, and they've got a pyramid set up in the middle to sit under, and you go there and meditate, and it's supposed to connect you with star people. So I'm like, you know what? I don't need James to tell me to go do this meditation. I just need to go do it because I know that's what I need to do. So I go out there and I sit down and I do the meditation, and it's funny, like I'm trying to remember all the messages I got in this meditation, but like there were a few that were really important, and it was like I struggle with meditating. I really do. I find it difficult because my mind's just going. So, you know, it's like every distraction that can come up through my mind goes. But this one was really, really good. And I got some really powerful messages. And some of them were at the time I was really, and I want to get back into it, but like fasting for like days at a time. I mean, one of the best things I've ever done is fasting. And so that was one of the messages I got was keep up with the fasting. It's actually, it's completely good. Don't let anybody talk you out of it. So I tell people I fast for 5 days, like sometimes with no water. They're like, you die after 3 days without water. Oh, really? No, you don't. Trust me. And they'll sit there and argue with you. No, fasting's bad for you. I'm like, really? What was your experience? Well, I've never tried it, but it's bad for you.
But yet all the science now, not all the science, but there's a lot of science that shows how good it is.
Yeah, and not to mention every religious text. Every religion, there's fasting in there somewhere. Well, okay, why?
Even the Raelians, every Sunday.
So that was one of them, was fasting. The other thing I got was, let's see what else. To start trusting my intuition, because, you know, I doubt it too much. And when I get like a message or some kind of communication, just trust it because it is actually accurate. And stop looking for validation. So like I'll get something and I was like, I'll get something that's really cool. I'm like, okay, well, I want to talk, like, who's going to know about this best? And I want to go ask them, is this true? But no, I just need to trust that it's true. And there was a few others that I can't remember what it was, but it's not important. But like these messages were really, really important and kind of validating for me. And like just frankly awe-inspiring because I was getting visuals the entire time too. Like this is a very powerful, very, very powerful place. And then a very powerful circle within this very powerful place. It was awesome. And so anyways, I come out of it and I'm actually sitting there, I'm like, wow. And then I'm like looking up at Mount Adams. So Mount Adams is 14 miles away. It's 2 miles high. And it's not accessible by skidoo, quad, vehicle, or hiking, or anything like that. And it's on a native reserve. So good luck getting permission to even go on it, even if you could, right?
I could go.
Well,
that's our in to the mountain, Darren.
You can get me into ESEti and I can get you on.
Let's go into the mountain, all the way down. We'll find that underground base and
you go first. I'll wait at the top.
Okay, so I come out of it and I look over at Mount Adams, which is quite a ways away, but the sky was clear. And I just look up at it because I mean we'd been having the most profound, all night nonstop flash bulbs and streakers and like just the stuff floating around the mountain. You're like, what the hell is that? And I just look over at Mount Adams. I'm like, okay, listen, guys. I know you just finished telling me not to look for validation, but please, you know how I am. I'm going to get up and walk away and I'm going to start doubting it. So just one final validation. I'm just going to take some random pictures here. Please just appear in one of the pictures, just some kind of anomaly, so that I have some proof, and then I'll really work on not asking for validation for everything. So I just grabbed my camera. It was just an iPhone 8 Plus. Click, click, click. Well, first, taking a bunch of pictures, and I took a couple slow motion videos too. So then,
now I remember you showed me. Yeah,
did I show you those pictures?
So. Was it at a C5? I think you were passing around.
Was it? Yeah, or were you there when Shelly was at Celia's mom's?
Yeah, probably.
Okay, that was that day. Yeah, I was showing. That's the first time I showed people.
Yeah,
and so it was funny because here looking at the pictures, I didn't see anything right away, and then I found one picture where I saw one, and I was just like, "Holy crap! It actually worked!" And I was just like mind blown. I walked from the circle to my truck, and I just had to lean over my truck because I was like, I didn't know if I was going to throw up or pass out or cry or laugh. Like I was just so overcome. I didn't know what to do. And I just sat there, and then I started looking at the pictures more, and the more I looked, I'm like, holy crap, this one has 7 UFOs in it. This one actually has a disc in it or a cigar shaped one. I couldn't tell for sure. Like, I mean, some of you look and it's something, whether it's a disc or a cylinder, it's hard to tell, but and I'm like, wow, they appeared in like a whole bunch of pictures. And I was just like, thank you so much. And just like overwhelmed with gratitude. And then, you know, so it was a great validation. And I mean, it was all the messages I got in that meditation. And there was like seven really cool messages. I just gave you a few because I can't remember off the top of my head. I haven't looked at my journal in a while, but yeah, so that place, that was really powerful. So, I mean, it was like, you know, and I'm sure it had a lot because, I mean, so I'm looking all the way back around because you asked me about the line beings, and that's, you know, that was, I'm sure that was them, at least some of them. Some of the experience there was the line beings, like, you know, trying to help awaken me and help me to get my shit together and start making a difference and helping people like you're supposed to.
Yeah. Wow.
I think that's what you're supposed to do too, but I didn't hear that from the Lion people. I didn't have to see these pictures though.
Yeah, for sure.
I have to see these pictures.
Yeah, you know what? I'll if you guys want to post them on your social media, I'll send them to you.
Yeah, sure.
Oh, and then the other cool thing was started looking at my slow motion videos, and I got UFOs traveling. And I took 2 videos, and in both of them, there's a UFO. And I'll be down. I'm not a tech guy. Maybe we'll talk to Brody after. I don't know if he can get videos off an iPhone and play with them and make them something you can look at. But I mean, even in the slow motion.
Don't say play with them. That just sounds like we're going to doctor them.
Oh yeah.
We just got to upload it raw. We'll throw a bunch of fucking tag words in the title. UFO real proof 2019. Bang.
We'll do the raw, unedited, and then maybe something with a filter to show. But so even with the slow motion, they're so fast, even in slow motion mode, that you can barely see them when you're watching it in slow motion. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like,
so in real life, they're everywhere. They're just so fast.
Well, man. Like,
in that place, I mean, do you think there's a portal aspect to that?
Well,
place?
yeah, because I mean, you see that. You know, I didn't see it personally when I was there. I can't remember if anything changed, but when you look at the pictures from one day to the next, and one day it looks like there's a great big gaping hole in the side, and then the next day it's completely flat and snow covered. Yeah.
But why that ranch though? Because it's in that vicinity. Like, it's still 14 kilometers away from the mountain. I mean, I think, or is the ranch special as well? That land.
I would say
Mount Adams?
You got the Mount Adams is a special place. Maybe it's sort of like a Mount Shasta.
Yeah, I was just gonna.
And then you got the ranch. I don't think it's necessarily that the ranch is special. I think it's that James has made it special because James is who James is. James found his calling, and he made that place. Like, you know, James created that place, and then probably when James was there, I think, you know, the star people and the Sasquatch came because they knew, okay, James has set this place up with the intention of making it what it is, so they're gonna come and support it. So that's kind of what I think. I think the ranch is special because of who's on it.
Yeah. So who do you? How did your life change after that experience when you learned, like, you know, you learned that there was some sort of awakening to help people more? Is that something that you're striving towards? Like, that sort of part of your energy work and some of your other spiritual practice and all
exactly.
that?
That's exactly. I mean, it wasn't immediate. Like I came back, and I mean, it was like having a mushroom glow for like a month. Kind of thing. Like, it was just, my heart was just glowing and just energetically felt amazing. And so I did start, you know, I started doing some energy healing and stuff for people. And the thing is, like, it's hard, you know, you want to do these things. Like, that's my passion. That's what I love to do and make a living at it, but you got to build up to it. And then in the meantime, you got to pay the bills. So it's hard. Like, you know, sometimes I'll do a whole bunch of energy healings in a month, and then sometimes I go a couple months without doing any. But the biggest thing is when I look back at it, it gives me renewed inspiration to be like, okay, I got to start doing this. Like, you know, and I want to make 2019 kind of the year where I start really start focusing. So, I mean, you know, I've taken some steps, like the job I was working at, like now I'm just working as a subcontractor, have many clients. So, you know, I get more money coming in less time. So ideally what I like to do is do my consulting work, like, you know, maybe Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, maybe Thursday, and have like Friday, Saturday, Sunday to do healing work for anybody. And I mean, I do all kinds of stuff. I do hypnosis for past life regression.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
and then, which is actually turned into, if there's somebody, if you hypnotize somebody and something needs to come out, just because I'm trying to regress them in a past life, it doesn't mean that's what's going to happen. It can be in between lives, Have you
ever thought about expanding that practice to that Barbara? Oh, what's her name? That does. I think she's passed away now, but she's got a whole
Dolores Cannon.
Dolores Cannon, yeah.
Yeah. So I've already learned essentially that.
Okay.
But I have thought, yes, I would like to maybe do the QHH, the quantum healing hypnosis therapy. That's something I want to do. Just because then there's more exposure. So when people hear about it, because it's very popular, they say, well, who's in Calgary?
Yeah, because there's a guy. Yeah, I talked to a guy a few years back. I was going to get him on the show, and then just
that James guy that does the big mass ones at the hotels here.
I don't know if that's him. Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Well, I'd like to do a past life regression anyway.
Dude,
Really,
yeah.
Yeah, man, we should do it up.
Yep.
Well, hopefully we can help you out with some of that stuff. I mean, you're welcome to come in and use space. And
Yeah.
whatever we can do to help.
Yeah, no, that'd be awesome.
And Graham, are you gonna do some ESEti at the CAC then?
Yep. Oh yeah.
CAC SETI?
Yep. Yeah, I'll do some.
What about some
CE5.
Reiki healing?
CE5 is.
Can I say that everyone who goes to CAC will get a free Reiki session from the one and only Graham Dunlap?
Well, there has to be some exchange.
Yeah, they came to CAC.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe
Does
a
that
little.
count as
Maybe.
exchange?
What if he does it? What if he does it and he sucks? What would that make him?
Exactly.
That would make him a sucky.
Or, yeah, because you wouldn't want to be a CAC sucker, right? What a big.
Kind of took the long way around to that one, but I like it.
Yeah, we'll do some, but I want to start relabeling it because CE5 is just the all-round term for that type of intentional contact. So I want to get away from the ESEti, but it's more of a brand, which is fine. But I'd like to try and use that umbrella term of CE5 instead. So
Okay, there we go.
okay. Come on.
It's like he's singing along.
No, come on. The noise you're okay, turn it off for a second. Let's finish this up over here. So, are you doing the hypnosis for people then too? Or is that
I haven't been for a while, but yeah, I'm going to start because and it's funny because it's just been coming up just since December 1st, like just random people. And it's weird. They'll just like randomly mention that they want to be hypnotized. Like people I met like 5 minutes ago and I'm like, I do that.
You could hypnotize me on the show.
That would be intriguing. You know what?
I think I'm unhypnotizable.
Well, then you probably are. If you think you are, you got to be open-minded to it.
I'm pretty open-minded.
Yeah, no, but you got to go in with an attitude. Like, I guess we can try it, and if it flops, we'll just pretend it never happened. But they say anybody's is hypnotizable, but sometimes it might just take a whole bunch of practice, and you might have to try session after session after session. Like, I haven't been hypnotized. I've tried to be hypnotized 4 or 5 times, and I did start the last couple. I started to get some visions, but like some people, I've seen it. Like when I was learning. They get hypnotized. Like, I've never tried this before. I don't meditate. And they have the hypnosis and they start doing the protocols and everything. And like 5 minutes in and they're deep and they are hypnotized and they're not.
These are your mainstream media viewers.
yeah, NPCs. Yeah. So
Orange man bad.
I think that's a real underrated form of healing. And it might not be as underrated as I think, but the past life acknowledgement, even just like that can just bring out healing, just to acknowledge like where you've been. And it doesn't even have to be like finding that specific fear from a past life, but just even acknowledging that.
I hate to be that guy, but we're on another podcast in like 9 minutes.
Yeah, that's fine. We'll wrap it up. Okay. We had 2-3 minutes to wrap it up.
Yeah. So if I can just add on that real quick, that's something really interesting with the healing. What I have done is, it was I intended for this and it actually works, is if people get into a past life memory or even a earlier life memory. And, I've had it where they start freaking out and you're like, whoa. And I'm like, I need to leave. No, you're in control. We're going to pause this, freeze it. Are you okay? Yeah. Okay. I'm fine now. Listen. So we're going to make, we can heal it right there. We can do, I can send Reiki and energy healing to them in that past life, or we can, there's all kinds of things we can do.
That's interesting.
How would you have liked this to turn out? Let's make that happen. Visualize how it should have went. And I've done that. And it was just off the cuff because I wasn't expecting it. And I'm just like, off the top of my head, and it worked.
That's a great idea.
So yeah, it's a
and
very powerful.
When they come out of it, and then
they feel much better.
Yeah.
So like totally, it's something I would definitely want to do more of. So yeah, absolutely.
That's awesome.
So you quit smoking.
That's how you quit smoking?
Some people.
Oh,
Yeah.
It's a thing, for sure. I just quit smoking because I wanted to quit smoking.
Yeah.
Actually, it wasn't that easy. I shouldn't fucking say that.
Yeah, exactly.
Everyone should quit smoking.
Yeah.
Quit fucking smoking cigarettes.
Man,
Okay.
it's good to see you. And,
Yeah, it is great.
It's great to
We're
finally
going to
have
rush
you on the
through
show.
some housekeeping.
Well, no,
You
we
should
don't
come
have
to
to.
CAC.
No, we'll make this an episode. We'll do
No, we
another
can't.
episode.
We did like half an intro at the beginning of it.
Yeah, but that's okay. We can just cut it out and we'll just do another intro.
Well,
shorter
and
one
the
some
great
other
thing
time.
is, I live 10 minutes away from here. This is
There you go.
awesome, literally.
Yeah,
So
awesome.
love to come back and chat anytime.
Yeah, right on.
Absolutely. We'll do a full episode
Cool.
because this is still an intro,
Yeah.
whether
Cool.
Graham likes it or not.
Should read your notes
What notes?
that I've been sending you.
You sending me notes?
Yeah.
On what? On Discord?
Nothing.
Are you sending me Discord notes?
That's how I have to communicate during an episode.
You can see all my devices in front of me. You can see
You don't
that.
have it on your computer?
It's not on.
Here, that's right down there.
Yeah, but there's no little dot underneath it that
Oh,
says
okay.
it's on. What have you been saying?
Nothing. All good.
Now I'm curious. Well, are you going to come to CAC?
It's May, right?
There's one May 17th. Well, yeah, it's in May. There's dates available from May 17th to May 27th.
Yeah, I'll see. I'll have to. It's tough. Like I got behind on the episodes, so that's why I binged so many yesterday. But yeah, I'll see what I can do, financially and stuff. And time off is not a big deal. I'm my own boss now. So.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, right on.
We don't
Awesome,
have
buddy.
that luxury. Graham's going to be there the whole time, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then you guys could do like a joint outing.
We'll see. Oh, yeah, we'll do some of those before we go.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think I'm going to go to Jason's seat.
Yeah, I know. I know.
Yeah. I'm out.
Wouldn't that be the best episode when Darren's finally like, okay, I gotta say, I finally know what Graham's talking about.
That's not going to happen.
Oh, yeah, well, sure.
No, that's not.
We go for a ride. We're taken away. That'll be good.
I'll be that
You're like,
guy.
I went for a ride. Yeah, you've been doing this for years. I go out.
I go for a ride. I got pictures of the inside of the UFO. I got a selfie with the chief.
Do you remember the one we went the first time we went to mile 13 and I told you about the 2 hours I had missing?
Yep.
Oh man, I'll tell you.
Yeah, that was from the tent.
I got taken
Missing
from a
time's a
tent or
motherfucker.
something. I don't know. 2 hours went by like this. I was dark and it's 2 hours and it was like literally dark and I'm staring at the top of my tent and it's bright out and it's 2 hours past. I'm like, what the hell just happened? Like, it was-
And straight sober.
yeah.
I've had entire weekends disappear, but I wasn't straight
No,
sober.
Graham was piss testing that weekend, man. I was sober.
I think Graham's always piss tested. I seen him playing with a toy.
No, I don't know. It was just like nobody's ever really said we can't do that, but I just, it's just respect for Celia. I just don't.
Graham said that. Yeah. He said those exact words. Thanks for coming on the show, Jason.
Oh, thanks for
It's been a
having me.
slice.
This is a nice surprise. I was just checking out the studio but yeah, I know.
We drag you in. That's how we get you. We trick people into coming on the show. They always come in and they're like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Sometimes we call people up and they don't even know they're on the show. Now, whenever I call Alan, he's like, is this the show? Anyway,
Cool.
go to CAC.
I'll try.
Everyone should go to CAC.
Yeah.
Check out the show notes. Do everything in the show notes. Grimerica.ca/support. That's the most important thing you can do in the show notes. Support the show. Spam the gram. Enjoy the chat.
Yep.
Join the chats.
Join the chats. Grimerica.ca/chats.
Yeah. Oh, well, and it's a very valid point. Like, I know episodes I just listened to, people are talking about, well, if you're listening to this many episodes, it's like however many pennies, like, and it's totally valid. Like, it's better entertainment than TV. What else am I going to do when I'm driving around the province?
Exactly.
And I don't want to have, like, I like this show, I like Jimmy Church Radio. There's not a lot I want to listen to, and you guys are great. So, like, I'm a supporter. I mean, I was actually thinking I'm going to bump up my support a little bit
Thanks,
now,
buddy.
too. So,
That's
There you go.
awesome.
A buck a
Thanks.
show is all we ask.
Yeah.
But we accept more because 99% of you don't give a shit. All right, guys. Honestly, I hate to say it like that, but it's true. I mean, I call a spade a spade. You can't sugarcoat the fact that 99% of you don't support the
Yeah,
show.
we're trying to get to 1%. Some guys are
1%.
at
Is
5.
that
We'd
so
like
much
to
to
get
ask?
that. We'd like to get up there a little bit. Yeah. In percentage, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like Graham trying to get to 5'6".
I'm already there, dude.
Are you? You got your high heels on today? Enjoy the chat.
All right, so tonight we've got Michael Wann with us. He's from Suquehanna Alchemy, and he's done some interesting stuff for me, a Starboard chart, which is like an astrological thing, and he's doing all kinds of good research, interesting stuff, alchemy, and a little bit of pop culture analysis, all kinds of cool stuff. So we'll be chatting about all kinds of different things. So yeah, thanks for doing that for me, Michael. I want to talk about that a lot, but we also want to jump into a bunch of other things. And yeah, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I've been looking forward to this, so I'm excited to see where we go.
Yeah, I've been listening to you on a bunch of other shows and watching videos, and of course that Starboard chart you sent me, which we'll get into. And I love the way you can approach a lot of different subjects and have some real interesting conversations about all kinds of crazy stuff. So it's good. It's not like just one little thing, right? You can talk about all kinds of stuff. So it's good.
Thank you. I mean, I like to think about it as like it is just one little thing, and it's being alive during this time and being human. And then when you have that as just the umbrella, then everything else just falls into it. And I just look at everything from that same lens.
Yeah. It is a very interesting time. I mean, it's what a time to dissect some of the stuff that you've been dissecting. I heard you talk about everything from, parallels in politics to 80s movies and some very interesting archetypal stuff. I mean, there's so much information out there now, and I feel like, I want to spend a little bit more time putting the pieces together, like people like yourselves do, taking this and this and sort of attaching them in a, occult and a chemical way.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think you have to now because, I mean, particularly if you've been in this for a while and you've been researching for a while and you're starting to see and get all of this new information and the amount of new information is growing exponentially. And if you continue to kind of, at least I've found this, if you continue to just like stay on that wave of like what's new and this and that, you're just kind of swept away with it. But when you kind of step off every once in a while, and then you look at all of the things that you have just taken into your mind. I mean, go back 2 generations ago, like the people, us who are alive right now, who are being inundated with a greater degree of information than there ever has been. And which is, it's got 2 sides to it. So if we can step off that train, particularly those of us who are intrigued by information and intrigued by observation, when you start to put those pieces together, there's some really, really interesting correlations, and this whole other picture comes into play.
Yeah, it's different for us because we're talking to all these interesting people like you and that are researching and digging into some of these things. And we kind of, I'm interested in a lot of different things, but we get stuck hitting the surface of a lot of stuff and not being able to put too many pieces together ourselves. But it sure is a interesting time to like once you talk about this stuff for a few years, like we've been doing this for 5.5 years now. And of course I've been interested in podcasts for 5, 6, 7 years before that. like things will just never be the same for me. Like I can't now close my eyes to what, like the more I talk to people like yourself and realize that there's some crazy shit going out there, and it's not like what we were taught, and it's not like what we seem. It's not like what it is on the TV. Like there's some deep connections going on, and I don't know what to believe anymore.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's it. It's when you. I want to focus this just like on MK Ultra, because I think it's a good example, because the whole world's been MK Ultra. Because as soon as you begin to read and like actually research, like MK Ultra exists, and you can see how it affects so much of culture, and maybe even like the places that have been identified as like testing facilities. I don't know, but you can't help but start thinking like, am I being MK Ultra'd?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, that idea is in your mind and in your experience, and you've not had that before. And so you can't unhear it. And so that's part of this dance also, is like, there. Did you ever see that video? I think it was called Pet Goat 2.
No, I didn't.
And so this came out this is like 2009, and it's this really, really trippy sort of like 3-minute video, kind of following through the world post 9/11 to, this is probably before 2012. It was in that time frame. But what it does so interestingly is it creates this like worldwide initiation, like of like all of these of the events that are shared, these cultural events. And it's done with this really kind of like melancholic, creepy, but like hypnotic music, and you just watch it. But when you think about it, all of us who are alive, who are part of this, this Western culture, and I would say that's the majority of this globalism culture right now, we've been brought through this experience, and we're learning things, and we're seeing things and experiencing things, even things which may or may not have happened, but we're being brought somewhere. Whether you want to look at that psychologically, or you want to look at that like, no, we're being brought into this new techno sort of blend world. I don't know, but we're most definitely being brought down this almost like it's this slow dance.
Yeah.
And that's part of like seeing these puzzle pieces, is you're recognizing that.
Yeah.
And you're kind of, you're waking up to this dream.
Yeah. Yeah, I wanted to start the conversation off something like this, because you've got a lot of research on your website, and people can go there to see what you've researched on Susquehanna Alchemy and the river that you live on, and all those correlations that you've made there. And just in case we don't get to that, but I've heard enough of your shows to know that you're always looking at something. So I was like, we could start this off by some of the newer stuff, or some of the newer things you're thinking of and looking at, and then we can, if we have time in the end, we can dive back into stuff that people can go to your website out and check out anyways,
Well, definitely. And thank you for that open window. So I do want to touch first as the concept of what I call the Susquehanna mystery. And basically what it was is seeing all of these connections, upon this river, which happens to be, if not the oldest, one of like top 5, one of the oldest rivers on the planet. And it's where globalism began, and the information age began, and all of this like magical and mystical organizations are tied to it. And it's so much detail. You're like, yeah, this is beyond coincidence. But that brought me somewhere else. Like at first, like, the data, the rational mind stuff is like, wow, this is crazy. Look at all these alignments. But then you step back and you're like, well, wait a minute. What does this mean? Like, why would this be effective? What is the nature of the environment that we are living in? This thing we call Earth. We just take for granted that we're here without, no one's given us any sort of explanation and of what here is, or where it is, or any of the rules. And certainly we know some stuff. But what don't we know? And so it's from that sort of perspective that, like, all right, maybe the rules are a little bit different, and maybe the environment is different than what we have been shaped and led to believe. And at first, I was looking at it very much as it relates to like being a human being and relating to the environment. You know, like, what is the environment? Why does it really have an impact, a noticeable impact when you talk to your plants? Like, talk to your plants for 2 weeks and you will see your plants grow. Why would they do this on the river? And why the oldest river? And then I switched it up, or I spent some time there. And then recently I've been really interested as it relates to just what it is to be human. You know, what is being human? Like, we've got this thinking mechanism, you know, we've got this mind, and we know that there's a word which we call like conscious and subconscious to describe it. And there was once upon a time, like, people had the same sort of vehicle, the same sort of mechanism. They had this body and this brain, and they didn't have these words. So they thought differently of whatever their thinking mechanism is. But we recognize that there's a part of this thinking mechanism that we have no idea what's going on. And we also know that this part of this thinking mechanism, the subconscious, can be communicated and manipulated at, particularly by someone who knows what they're doing, at their will. And so, like, well, why is that? And what does that mean? You know, why is that the nature of being human? And what does that mean? And what else don't we know about being human?
How long ago was that? How long ago did you move there and start this?
I don't know if it's just me, but time has gotten really strange.
Oh, yeah. But I mean, you're talking over a decade or 5
6
years?
months. You know, things happen so fast now.
Yeah.
That it seems like yesterday, but it also seems like it could have been a year ago. I don't know. Yeah.
Did you look into any of the experiments showing that you don't even have to talk to your plants? You can just think to them? And that if you start to think about chopping off one of the branches, they get fucking pissed off?
This was my own experiment. This is like, I don't know, like 7 or 8 years ago. And I just read like something all about that. I was like, all right, you know, I was really into platonic solids, you know, because platonic solids, you know what a platonic solid is?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Okay, so I was like really into that. I was like, because it doesn't have any sort of subjective quality. It's like objective, and it's but they do have like
sacred geometry to them. Right?
They do have qualities that make them unlike any other solid. Like there's something very unique. And so what I started doing was, okay, let me see if I can hold the shape of a and I would use the dodecahedron, the one with all of the pentagrams, because that's the phi ratio. I'm like, let me go and hold this phi ratio in my imagination with my mind's eye, like project that into the soil of the plant, which is in the office I was using at the time. And I would do that for like 5 minutes every day and just kind of like focus on it. And the reason why I like the dodecahedron was because, you know, it's the phi ratio, and the phi ratio, everything's built upon it. So I'm like, I don't have to think anything, be like, oh, I love you. I just need to think this because this is what everything grows upon. I did that for like 2 weeks. Then I got bored and I moved on to something else. A week after that, and this was a hibiscus tree, and I had this tree for years. So I had an understanding of its natural flowering rhythm. It might flower like 2 or 3 times during a year. About 2 weeks after I stopped doing that, it flowered every day for 21 days.
It's crazy.
And so I'm like, I don't know what that means, but I'm like, what is the nature of our relationship? And then going back to culture, because what we have to recognize about being human, I mean, you talk about a good experiment. Here's a good experiment. You got to get a 1-day-old baby, and that's the hardest thing. But once you get the 1-day-old baby, you can put that child in any household anywhere on the planet. And I guarantee in 2 years, without flashcards, that child will speak that language. Because we absorb our environment. Like it's most extreme when we're little, but that never disappears. And we take for granted what we're in. particularly like culture, the time we're in, like all of these things you just take for granted. Your own psyche, you take that for granted. I mean, that's the whole Starboard stuff is like you take for granted how unique you are because there's never been a day you've not been in your skin. And so when we can go and step out and look at the culture, look at like these small things, like what stop signs do to you, or like what calendars do to you, or like, you know, people do this, all of these things, how they impact us. And then we grow into it. You know, if we have this relationship with trees, or we have this relationship with other with the natural world, but we also know we have it with the mental world through language. We have to recognize like all of this stuff we take for granted, you know, our history, what we see in the news, you know, why does the Simpsons predict everything? You know, what is that?
Yeah. Yeah. So like the connections that you saw on in your Susquehanna River and the town and all that stuff, you know, I feel like, I don't know how to ask this question, but I feel like there was some intention put behind designing civilization and towns and all that stuff a couple hundred years ago, and further back. But now, I mean, we've kind of lost all that now, that the way towns and cities get developed and just this urban sprawl with no meaning behind it at all. I don't think. I mean, I wonder what's lost from that. And I mean, what do you think was the intent? Was all that stuff created with intention, or was it just, you know, a higher level of synchronicity or spiritual sort of effect?
Great questions. I am, you know, you got me so excited with, I just want to touch on the first part of what you said before we go to the second part, but, they are planned, current environments, housing communities, cities, they are planned. But they're planned in a very different way.
Yeah, I mean, I realize they're planned by urban planners, but it's not.
You are right. There was once a time that cities, and they still are, but they are aligned to be to mirror the greater environment we're living in. You know, whether that be the stars or the you know, the equinoxes and so forth. But as it relates to what's going on in Susquehanna, so this is the way I best understand it. There was the river was initially it was worked upon very, very purposefully, and it was worked upon in what's generally thought of as ceremonial magic. And what ceremonial magic, you know, if this is what exactly happens or if this is just a way to envision it, this is how I envision it, is if you could imagine the more subtle realms of reality, the more etheric realms through like focus and attention and concentration, like a lattice, a structure is created on this etheric plane, and then life unfolds around it. So in the same way that if you could imagine just like wild ivy growing all over someplace, and you erect a wooden lattice, eventually the ivy will grow around the lattice. So it's not so much like the ivy planned to do that. It just like did whatever, it just did whatever structure was in front of it. It did the least common, it followed the path of the least resistance. But that said, there's a very specific alignment right at the 40th parallel and the Susquehanna River involving colleges. And I think that was probably done purposefully. I believe the selection of the Baseball Hall of Fame at the source of the river, I believe that was done purposefully. The location of Jamestown at the mouth of the Chesapeake Bay, which is the Susquehanna Bay, that's just spell work to make you think it's different, that was done purposefully. The first computer, I don't know. I don't know. It could go either way. I'd be, you know, if I could flip a coin if I had a bet. But it's a mixture of it. Because the most interesting thing, in my opinion, was I live here. I didn't grow up here. I moved here, and then the story just kind of unfolded on my computer using Wikipedia, or at least Wikipedia getting me started. And so the question is like, how did that happen? Am I just putting together things that aren't there? Or am I picking up a signal? I don't know. But that's part of this dance, which when I ask about the environment, we have this dance with our environment where there seems to be this give-take relationship. Whether that's with something as small as the plant we're using, or something larger where we're putting our attention and our awareness. And so, that's my that's my thought on the river.
Well, it's interesting because a lot of that stuff's on ancient like symbology. Like it always goes back to the ancient fucking symbols. And then I was just listening to Rogan go off about some shit today, but it reminded me about when you start putting the sand or the salt on the fucking pad and you put the different vibrations of the different hertz into it, and it starts making these crazy fucking symbols all the time.
That's exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
that doesn't just happen with sand on a little thin metal plate. We're all feeling those cymatics. When we're all changing, like when the vibration change, and like what's the vibration? We can't even feel it because we've always been in it. Maybe some people feel it a little bit more.
What does that make you think about? Is there something to the, like, I mean, we don't do it a lot in the West anymore, but the Muslims, I mean, they're all getting together and doing their chants in the morning. Are those, I wonder, it makes me start looking at some of those rituals a whole lot differently when you get into the chanting or the praying or the, like, is there something to that that's setting your fucking soul right for the day that, listening to CNN tell you the world's coming to an end isn't doing?
Without 100% correct. I agree. That is 100% correct. The chantings are just, though, they're techniques. So like you have to still be very, very conscious on what you're chanting, because what will happen is you will become aligned with that, whatever that is, whether you're chanting CNN or whether you're chanting, any type of whatever your belief is. I mean, one of the things which I think is so interesting is you could take, three different true believers of three different at odd belief systems. And if the individual feels in their heart like they're completely aligned with it, and they're like, I know it in my head, I feel it here, this is it. Each one of them is getting something immensely valuable out of it, even though they can't all be like true because the beliefs are contradictory. And so what you have to recognize, the only truth is the power of belief. Something magical happens when this vessel which we're in decides, like, I'm going to align all, like, my actions, my chantings, my thoughts, like what I really feel inside, what feels right. Something happens with your ability to interact in the world. And that's the whole thing with like capture the imagination. This is the whole, Walter Lippmann, one of the first, the fathers of propaganda. He was like, I want to be able to control the pictures which people put in their minds, because all I got to do is give you the frequency, the image to then go and believe, and you're just going to naturally create whatever was I gave you. Mm-hmm. And so, belief is it. But then it's also, you have to be very, very wise with what you believe, and you have to believe something. Well,
yeah. At that point, your beliefs become, you don't want to put them into ideologies or dogma. You want to put your faith in yourself and your future, or your friends or your family or your health or whatever else, right?
Something that works, right? I mean, what I always try.
Do you think there's a limit to that on what works?
I'm sorry?
Do you think there's an upper limit to that?
I don't know. That's half the fun. I mean, it's my opinion that I think this is supposed to be fun. Being in body, and maybe half the fun is the experimentation of like, what are the upper limits? I've got two boys. They're 10 and 11, and they both play lots of sports. And I played a lot of sports when I was younger. And I have a memory in my mind of like what was normal skills for like a 10-year-old soccer player. Like, this would be like a rec player and this would be more elite. And this is what, 30 years ago? And I look at my kids now and I look at what the standard level of play is, and it is so heads and shoulders above. And you see that everywhere of like what people are doing, and athletics is interesting because it's so tangible, but like we're the upper limits of what we're capable of doing. I think like, it's expanding drastically. The bars is raising. Sports is a silly analogy, but it's also like,
it's measurable.
Well, wasn't it like the 100-mile-an-hour fastball, right? Like nobody could throw a baseball 100 miles an hour. And then as soon as one guy fucking did it, I mean, every team in the league's got a couple guys that can do it.
Yeah, 4-minute mile, same thing. And so like I think we're at this point right now, I think, going back to like where we started, like there's so much friggin' information. Like whenever we kind of open this closet door individually and you're like, oh, wow, what's in here? There's so much more going on. And then you start taking in information and then you're like, oh my God, what's going on? And then it gets to a point of diminishing returns. You get to the level of like, yeah, okay, I got it. I get it. And then you go and we're like, well, wow, this is kind of amazing. Look how everything is expanding. And yeah, there's all of this other stuff, but we're learning these sort of rules of, this isn't really my area of expertise, but like a lot of people talk about like natural law, like both in philosophical application, and then also just like real literal application of applying natural law as a way of interacting with other human beings. But then also these other laws that we have with the environment, what we're talking about. And that's also going to be with other people. And as we're beginning to recognize that just because we're seeing it on a screen, like the technique works. If you see something on the screen and you believe it to be real, whether or not it's real or not, it will be internalized and then it will be externalized in your life. You will experience it. We're all figuring this out. We're all seeing like, but I'm not exactly willing to throw away my laptop yet, because if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't be able to have this great conversation with you guys. So like, we're still somewhere within this system, but we're figuring it out. And what the upward limit, I don't know, but I'm optimistic as fuck.
Yeah, I heard you talking about that with Rogue Plays or one of those shows, and it was, you were talking about the balance of technology, and you can't you try not to let it get you get addicted to it too much, but then you do need some of it to also do what we're doing and to be a part of the the resistance to the movement of. I don't want to get too conspiratorial, but you know what I mean. I mean, there's a real possibility that we could be clamped down and controlled pretty quick here. So we have to find a way to use this technology as a way to keep the conversation happening.
I think that yes, like I mean, anything which is anything that has perils with it should be understood. If you're going to go and do a 10-mile hike through a rainforest somewhere in South America, it's best that you kind of know what you're doing, right? So it's like this is a jungle. In fact, I don't need the research suggests, and if you just even are just slightly curious and open-minded, all of this internet stuff is immensely magical. Like whatever the magic world is and the magic orders, that's what this is. We're looking at liquid crystal display screens. We're looking into scrying mirrors, all of the Ethernet and the ethers. This is in all of the symbology. I mean, we're working with something, and we should have some appreciation and an awareness of it. And that's not even considering the whole governmental stuff. I mean, I don't see it much different, but yeah.
Well, the other side of that coin is that we're crawling out of the clampdown because, for the last
No.
fucking few thousand years, there was no talking like this so that anyone could hear about it unless you wanted to go hand out flyers in the parking lot or, there was nothing. There was nothing. Even 15 years ago, there was nothing. Maybe Alex Jones was just starting, but 20 years ago, there's nothing. And 30 years ago, there's nothing. And 50 years ago, you get shot for it. And 100 years ago, So, I mean, I can get why some people think it's about to be clamped down, but, I just look at it as part of the ebb and flow of them trying to react to what a couple million of us are doing on a daily basis.
Yeah, but I wonder if there's more freedom back then as well in a certain way. Like we're all debt slaves and a lot of people can hardly make a living. And I know more people are coming out of poverty every day and all that stuff. So we are all moving forward.
You could write the story every day for the last 20 years that 130,000 people escaped abject poverty today.
I know, but there's also, we're also all kind of slaves.
Kind of. That's right. But
more than we
you can
might
also
have been
look
100
at that
years
in a
ago.
way that, I don't know. I could go both sides of that because, we're responsible for our own actions and our thoughts to a certain extent too. They do a good job of controlling those too. But if you can get those back, I think the sky's the limit. And that's kind of where I think that's where the more the clampdown is them trying to control us, to, like you were saying, control our thoughts to the point that we don't understand what we're capable of.
Yeah.
That's why you got to get the fucking placebo. I don't even know. I can't believe they told us about the placebo. That's like the fucking crack in the curtain. Or, wait, what?
I think that we, as each individual has to come up with an inner narrative where this is a mythic journey and there's hope, because it is very easy to create an inner story which there isn't any, and that doesn't mean there isn't challenge. And just like what you're saying, it's like being in this environment is how you do wake up. Because when you're comfortable, there's no reason to wake up. It's only when you get the bucket of cold water on you.
So let's get back to the ceremonial magic of the town, the city creation, all that. What's the purpose behind that? Was that out of, what are they trying to do? Is that going to create a power?
So, okay. And a lot of this comes from a variety of different sources of information. And I had this feeling for about a couple years into the research. I'm like, this is what I'm thinking is going on. And then I found something which confirmed my feeling. So, this is where I'm leaning. This is what makes the most sense to me. It all starts with, or at least the story starts. This is where the story begins. This is the narrative which goes around. It all comes from John Dee. You know who John Dee is?
Yeah.
The Queen Elizabeth's astrologer, and he introduced to the world Enochian magic, and and we know all of this information from these diaries that he kept of all of these interactions he and this other guy, Edward Kelly, had with these incarnate spirits, and we've got his diaries, and those diaries are in the British Museum, and people read them, and so that's where we know. And you could also say, why are they in the British Museum for us to read? And like, maybe these aren't all the diaries, but like, this is the story which is put out there. So John Dee says that he was having these conversations with these entities who say that they're the same people who spoke to Enoch from the Bible, and they're like, listen, your world, and so this is written in this like late 1500s kind of language. They like, your world is protected by these watchtowers. And these watchtowers keep your world safe from all of these demonic forces. But this is what we can do. We can tell you something. We're going to give you we're going to teach you how to do this thing. We all that you do, you say these words and you draw these circles. And what will happen is you can really quickly like open up the watchtower and like you let one of the demons in, but we'll show you how to control them. And what the demons can do is the demons can control tutelatory spirits. That's what this is about, tutelatory spirits. And so a tutelatory spirit's like an earth spirit. And there was once upon a time, or at least all our history books tell us this, once upon a time, all over Earth, in all the different cultures, everyone had the same understanding that there were earth spirits. And they interacted with them. The earth spirits where you lived had, like what we're saying, there was an interaction with this natural world. And they would look after those that lived in their land. And one of the ways ancient warfare used to be fought was you would want to go and fight your opponent's tutelatory spirit, because if you could break their spirit, think about this, we're going to break your spirit, then we're going to be able to break the people. So, all right. So that got John Dee all excited, because John Dee was the visionary behind the British Empire. And he was very, very interested in this idea of British expansionism. And you got to keep in mind, like, Britain was an impoverished nation at the time. Like keeping all of their citizens fed was something they were struggling with. And they were 100 years behind the likes of like Spain and Portugal in the age of discovery. And somehow starting with John Dee and this vision for the British Empire in like 100 and I think the 1920s is when the British Empire was at its peak. So it's like 300 years later. So in this short period of time, it goes from this impoverished nation to the biggest empire that's ever been since recorded history. And so I'm not saying like go empire, but I am saying is like there have been a lot of people who wanted to take over the world, and somehow these guys did it better than anyone else in a shorter amount of time. And so you go and you start looking at this stuff, and they're like, oh, we've got this magic. I've never practiced Enochian magic, but I know a lot of people take it very, very seriously. And the guy who came up with Enochian magic then went and he set up shop right on the mouth of the oldest river. And so when we go and we look at history, and we see that yes, there was the different cultures understood that there were earth spirits and there are spirits with mountains and all spirits in the forest. There was a special relationship with water, particularly rivers. And we can see that best now, like when you think of like Vedic India and the holy rivers of India, and the Celtic or the cultures and their relationships with the goddesses of rivers. And
the Nile.
The question I always ask is like, what did they know? Why did they all do this? How did they experience something different than maybe what I am experiencing? That's a question that goes in the back of my mind. But if you go and you look at then what John Dee did and the British Empire, everything is on this river. And then when you go and you look at this river from just a purely like material geological perspective, it has certain qualities which are extraordinary, unlike other rivers. Like, every river's special, every person's special,
Just like a unique snowflake.
But there's only one person who's the fastest person on the planet. And some things are more special. And this river is incredibly special. Like, you look at its age, you look at like craters that are on it, all these different sort of things. And so now we go and we see like this is where the British Empire began. And we see at every place that there is a key geological transition, like where it changes form, there is this world first, whether I'm going to say Jamestown is the birthplace of globalism, because that was the first colony of the British Empire, and it was the birthplace of the United States. And the guy who says it's where the British Empire begins, I think his last name was Kelso. He's an archaeologist, maybe, I think, or an anthropologist involved with Jamestown. But he got an honorary knight from the Queen. So I'm imagining that when he says that, they're agreeing with him. So they look at this as the birthplace of the British Empire, and it's the birthplace of the United States because this is where the colony system began. And then we see the information age began on the river, and we see that the distribution of electricity began on the river. We see all this stuff, and you're like, this is the ancient practice of goddess worship. And it has been identified as the primary tutelatory spirit on Earth. And let me and define that for a moment. So everything in the spiritual world is hierarchical. And so like this, the lower it is on the hierarchy, the more personal it is. And like the higher up you go, the less personal it is and the more influence it would have. So like, let's say if we're talking earth spirits, the stream in the back of your house you have a much more personal relationship with that than perhaps like the main tutelatory spirit of the planet. And I'm going to suggest that the reason why everything was done upon this river, the reason why John Dee came here, the reason why everything happened is because the reason why this is the oldest river in the planet, the reason why it has all of these markers which cannot be missed when looked at amongst all of the other rivers in the planet, you'd be like, yeah, this is pretty special. If you were looking for like the most influential tutelatory spirit, and you got places in your body, there are glands in your body, there are things in your body which are more influential than other glands in your body. This isn't like, I'm rooting for my favorite. This is more so like understanding how the system works. Like I'm going to say this is the river which they put under a spell because that's what Enochian Magic says it would do. And in fact, I said they did it on a 400-year spell, starting exactly with the establishment of Jamestown, which was May 12th, 1607, and completing. And so there's this map associated with Jamestown.
And
boom,
it's got the economic crash. Was that, did I spoil it? Did I spoil the crescendo?
It was the year in 2007, but on that exact same day, 400 years later, 400 is a key number within Kabbalistic symbolism, which is the underpinning of all of these different Western mysteries. At their secret location, in that exact same day, they opened up this park, which is right on the river, which has all of this like ancient alchemical symbology. And so I'm like, that's the conclusion. Like there was an agreement. Agreement might not be the right word, but there was the whole idea of Enochian magic, at least how it was expressed within John Dee's diaries, was the ability to take over tutelatory spirits. And the reason why you'd want to take over a tutelatory spirit is because then you would have your way with what that tutelatory spirit protects. It will have to do what you tell it to do. Like this is what they say what the Enochian magic would do. And you're like, okay, that's an interesting idea. And then you go and you look and you're like, well, they came right here, and then they became the biggest empire. They took over the world, and everything that happened on this river just spread all over. And it seems to it came to a completion in 2007. And we've been still asleep, but I think we're waking up. And part of I'm just suggesting that, or what I find interesting in a conversation, which I like to encourage in my own explorations, is like, how is this practical? And like, how is this real? And how do I have a not just a relationship then with the environment, but then how do I relate to other human beings also? All of this thing, like, we have these, there's a way which we relate and which we connect, which we are unaware of. And so we're acting out unconsciously and doing all sorts of dumbass shit.
That's interesting. I didn't know about the 400-year.
Fire? that fire?
Or that's just a train.
That's just a train. Like that's not even that.
Oh.
That's like I don't even hear the train. When you hear the fire alarm, you can't miss that one.
We got a train here too.
Yeah.
So 2007, 400 years. So then what's your prediction for, is this going to carry on another cycle then? Or is it,
No.
you think that's it?
My personal opinion. So my personal opinion is, as I said, I'm an optimist. My personal opinion is all of this is really like, it's like, the Wizard of Oz. It's all just the Wizard of Oz. And this is the trickery which we're waking up to what we are. I don't know what we are. But I can't hold in my heart a vision of a dystopian future. I'm not going to put my energy there. And what I see in people and what I see in potentialities, like the only really nasty stuff I ever see, I see on the computer box, right? Like I see it some, you don't really see so much of the really ugly stuff. And I'm not denying it's happening, but there's a game which is happening. So there's a light, there's a
An LCD screen.
A truth which is being shown to like how things work. And that is obviously, there's an ugliness to that. And we're seeing that. But then there's so much other ugliness I don't even believe is real though. And I think it's just there to pollute our thinking.
Because if they can keep a certain percentage of us fucking negative, then that's enough.
And look what's happening. So since 2007, the collapse, like you mentioned, that's not pointing at you. Acknowledging
it's a 5-figure point.
It's like that really has made a big difference, right? So 2007, this happened. The parks opened up. Let's say this magical spell of this spell, this empire building spell has kind of come to an end 400 years later. And look at how polarized we are now. Like it's really shifted. Like it's almost like that's fallen away. And now here we are with the internet, which should be like, we're all coming towards a common truth in the middle, which is not happening at all. It's all we're doing is taking our little bits of information and reinforcing our current belief systems and getting really polarized. Like, I feel like there's some sort of connection there. Like this is now the next stage is nobody knows what is going on, what to do.
So I have a fantasy which I hold in my mind, and there's a power in belief, and I'm the first one. I'm like, this is my fantasy, but this is a fantasy I like to hold. All right. So let's say you could go back in time to 1820. And you could go and you could go someplace in the United States and let's say someplace in South America and someplace in Europe and someplace in Africa and someplace in Asia. And you can go and try to explain to the people who you see about how we're all on this planet and we're connected. You're basically describing the internet. You're describing how we can go and you can communicate with anyone on this planet and you can share like images, but there are no pictures yet. They don't know what a photograph is. So you can't talk about pictures, but like you're trying to explain what the internet is, because what you want to do is have those people build that or create that or create that mechanism. And they can't, or maybe some people can, but everyone's got a different picture in their mind. But if you did that same thing right now and you basically like imagine the internet, but you did it like, with your imagination, yeah. Every single person can do that.
The Akashic record.
So everyone has that possibility. So we can all imagine the same thing. So, one of the things of what we're seeing in culture, in the destructive culture, is that everything is inverted, and this is a truth. Like there's as it relates to destruction, like nothing's being created, particularly our destructive culture, nothing's being created. It's just an inversion of the truth. And so if we want to look at, and it makes a lot of sense, we can look at the internet, and the entire computer industry is being inherently sick just from the fact that, you know, these things that are in front of us, like, you know, they've got like heavy metals in them and like everything that it takes to make this happen, whether that's like slave labor, factories, or just like the extraction of these minerals from the earth. Like, yeah, yes, we are benefiting from this, but maybe at some point, like, I think anyone who could really think about like the way which humanity could actually have a harmonious relationship with each other and the environment, they'd be like, yeah, I'd still like to have something like the internet, but I don't want to deal with all of that, you know, all of the ugliness that comes with it. So now we can, you know, that's the fantasy. Like, I don't know what that is. You know, you put a crystal to your forehead and I go and I shoot it that way. I don't know. But we can picture that. And whether it's like a big solar flare or like a EMF attack, and like, we move off this. I don't know how that happened.
Well, this might just
That's
be part of the natural progression to get there too, right? Like, I mean, we had to get through the Model T to get to the Lexus.
That's what I hold. You know, if I'm going to pray down 3 times a day, I'm going to pray for, you know, this natural unfolding for us to refine the harmonious relationship we had with ourselves, our environment, and each other. I don't know what that looks like. I don't know how you get there, but I'm like, that's the thing that makes the most amount of sense to me.
Nuclear, baby. Fusion. We just got to get to fusion instead of fission. Away we go. Right?
Yeah.
So did you give Graham a reading or something?
The Starboard.
Oh, is that like
and yours is coming. I didn't get your birth information until probably a week after I got Graham's.
Well, you would think after 6 years, Graham would know my birthday, but
it's the time.
Here we are.
The time is important too.
We need the time. And
my timing was very interesting because it was upon the sunrise, and
I was born.
I want to explain the process because it was very beautiful. So Michael sent me the file, and it was he says, you know, sit down, try and spend about 90 minutes, light some candles and some incense, kind of use it as like a meditative process. And it was beautiful, very beautiful. And it was great to follow along and watch it. And you do like a video of this physical starboard. I hope you have a picture there or you have something of it there. And it's incredible. And it was really, because I'm sort of more of a visual one. So I've had readings before. We've had it where I can see my natal chart and stuff like that, but I can't really, you know,
it's abstract.
It's abstract, right? But the way
what am I looking at? I'm looking at dots and circles and symbols.
Yeah. So the way you actually physically put the planets on the signs and the timing of my birth and all that, it was beautiful. Beautiful.
Do you have it to Chromecast here so I can see it or no? Not you. I'm talking to Graham.
Oh,
you should. Graham should.
I didn't know what any of that meant.
I have a picture of it. I mean, I could show you a picture of it. I could put a picture. Of it?
I was just checking to see what time the sun rised on my birthday, but the sun rose at 6:40 a.m. So I wasn't born until like 10 after 8.
We should try and Chromecast. That's a picture of Michael doing it with his hands.
Ooh, it looks like a Ouija board.
So what did you make that? Don't say that. That's not.
Is that insulting? Sorry.
No, not at all. It takes a lot more to insult.
I don't care if it's insulting to you. You don't know what you're talking about. You're
so what was that made of?
What's the opposite of a snowflake? That's
it. Ice cube?
You're like the white ice cube.
So I've had so many weird experiences with this board. So
does he have any Pisces on there?
I'm sorry?
Does Graham have anything in Pisces?
Where's he had a bunch of water, but no, there was not anything in Pisces. But you know what? I can't tell someone else's chart. That's your diary. So you'd have to ask Graham.
You expect him to explain it? That's not going to happen.
You can go ahead.
You can't figure out email.
So the board I got the underside at like Home Depot, and I covered it with sand and volcanic ash. And it's an artistic replication of the zodiac. And the idea behind it is it's almost exactly what you're saying. It's like I don't know what astrology is, but astrology is immensely valuable. You can say like astrology is absolutely like it doesn't make like it's not real, but you can get an astrological reading and you can have a full belief in your heart that this is all just hocus pocus mumbo jumbo. But I guarantee you will get something immensely out of it, because astrology gives you a language to discuss your inner world, which we don't have in anything else. And so even if everything is wrong, like it forces you to think of like, oh, I didn't realize there are different ways to be assertive, and there are different ways which I receive things. There are different ways of like where I aspire, and different ways of where I face limitation, and like, and so it just provides that language. Now, that being said, I found it to be incredibly accurate from the feedback I get from people.
Have you heard that quote?
I'm sorry?
You heard that quote from, who was it, Buffett or something like that? It says, millionaires don't practice astrology, only the billionaires do.
That was JP Morgan.
Oh, JP Morgan. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
I butchered the quote, but it's something like that. It's like,
you should hear some of the shit Henry Ford had to say. It's fucking unbelievable. Like you read some of the fucking the success books from the 1920s and 30s, and they'll fucking floor you.
I got a lot of books from those times. It's yes.
According to the chats, the opposite of a snowflake is a steam puff. I like it. It's logical. It makes sense.
But the entire experience, and I used to only do them in person. It's only recently that I started doing them remotely.
Yeah.
Where I video it and then send you the video. It was to create an experience. And this is another truth about being human. Like when we have like these particularly what you'd call a sacred experience, and it's all about setting an intention, something happens to us. And we have to feel it. It's got to be unique. It's got to be special. It's got to touch all your senses. It's got to pull you in. And the truer it is, and what I try to do with the Starboard is, you know, I'm like, this is what the heavens look like when you were born. Regardless of anything else, you have this unique relationship, this time date stamp, because the planets are always moving. Whatever planets may be, they're always moving. And this is how they were when you were born. And so, and you see it and it makes sense, and it's aesthetically pleasing, and there's music, and all of that is to really create the inner environment to remind yourself, like, whether that's like to the macrocosm, I'm so much more connected than I thought I was, or just the fact that there's so much more to me, you know, as an individual than I realize, because I'm so caught up in this part of my drama or that part of my story.
Yeah, and when you make those connections physically on your board of, you know, there's a 90-degree connection with where Jupiter is compared to where the sunrise or the solar part is. And I mean, it's easier for me to not accept, but to visualize, you know, that there are these physical, like there's some physical influence here on me. Yeah. Yeah, it's really cool. Yeah, it's really, really cool. So you've had good feedback from it so far?
Yeah. I mean, I've been doing Starboard sessions for probably about 3 years now. I built it about 3 years ago. And again, this has been my experience in terms of being a human being. You can learn things very, very quickly if like there are other ways to learn. And what you have to do is you have to get like, you have to concentrate hard with your mind, and you have to go and do something with your body, and you have to feel it. You have to want to do that. And so when I built that, you know, I made it into like, it was incredibly detailed, and I had to make all of these symbols, you know, by hand, and I'm laying in this volcanic ash, and it gets in your nervous system. And, you know, there are people who've been studying astrology for 20 years. I mean, I certainly know my astrology, but I know it in a very, very different way. And this is true for all astrologers. They're going to tell, they're going to speak, or they're going to interpret, or they're going to read based upon their own astrology. That's the beauty of astrology, not the limitation of it. And mine is just the fact that I know that I put this in my nervous system, and I just know how to read the language now. I mean, you've seen on,
how hard is it to get there? Does that like a light just comes on where it's just like ding and it starts to make sense? Is that like a visual thing, or can you read a book and get there? No,
it's been more so like, so that's every once in a while that happens, but it's more so it just feels natural. And so because it feels natural, it's easy to miss. And I think this is true. And this is part of like this, again, I keep going back to like, what does it mean to be human? Like, really, how do we work? You know, because I don't think it's meant to be difficult. I think it's meant to be more joyful and easier. And so when we want to learn something new, like, yes, it takes effort, but the effort might not be what we thought it would be. And so when I did this, I already knew astrology. I've been studying astrology for probably 10 years before that. But as soon as I did that, I started talking about it differently. And it didn't seem any different, but I recognized that something shifted. Still feels the same as it always has, but something shifted.
So what made you put it together like that? Or not what made you, but, you know, like, was there...
So I had... I just moved out of the house, which I was with my children and my then wife, and I was in this transitional phase in life, and I found myself living in Wilmington, Delaware, and I was living with this woman who was this crystal healer, and she was an astrologer. And I always knew astrology, kind of, but I never had an opportunity to actually be with someone who really understood it and, like, you know, interact on a regular basis. So we would talk astrology all the time. And I was like, I need to do something with it. Like, I'm always making art. I'm always creating. So I'm like, I need to take this and put it in physical form, because I want to see this and I want to move around all this different, all of the different charts and see what you're talking about, because I can't picture it in my mind. And it took me probably about 3 months to build. And since then, I think I've probably done well over maybe 200 sessions with it.
Nice.
Yeah. And just recently, doing the ones remotely, I did as many I did in the last 6 weeks as I probably did in the first 6 months, which made me change kind of my relationship with doing these sessions. But yeah, it's been a really interesting ride.
Well, I can tell you put a lot of intention in it, and it's, you know, a lot of reverence behind it. It's like a ceremonial process for yourself too. I can tell.
Yeah. And to the person, I mean, it's I like to honor people, I suppose.
So can you talk a little bit about my reading then and see what Darren thinks about it? Or
just give us a rundown.
Going to give a bit of a laugh, or do you have it handy, or?
I don't have that. I'm a little bit caught off guard with that. I mean, I've got your book here. I mean, what was jumping out, because what happens is I get into a flow.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you recognize the change in my voice when I do that, but I certainly do. What I focus with, though, with your reading, and I had I'll tell you a couple things which I thought were interesting. So one was the amount of and it's unfortunate because I know the power of double entendre, but, you know, you have a lot of planets in Cancer.
Yeah.
And so that doesn't mean you get cancer, but I just don't like the fact that it's the same word because it has another connotation. So I like to just call it, you've got a lot in the crab.
Yeah. That's not much.
There's a lot of crabs.
Yeah.
He's always scratching.
And that was very indicative of your sensitive nature. And often, when you see a lot of this, the crab, a lot of crab energy, it can show itself in a person who finds it difficult to be around other people because they're picking up so much stuff. And so I found it very interesting that just like, you're so out there with just doing podcasts, not everyone does that. This is, I'm extending myself. I'm out into the world. But obviously you can hear a lot of this, you see a lot of the crab type qualities because, you're kind of soft spoken and you're not really, like a wild Aries, like very fiery sort of person. So you see that. But what was interesting is I don't think I've ever seen anyone with 4 planets in the crab before. And I've seen people with 4 planets in other signs. I mean, I got 4 planets in Sagittarius, and it's always interesting. But I do know from just listening to podcasts that Freeman, he always says he's got 4 planets in the crab. And so I'm thinking like, that's an interesting correlation. Like how many people are podcast hosts and how many people deal with conspiracy type issues and just like that ability, that commonality of that much water. So that definitely jumped out when I was looking at your chart.
And then just before Darren thinks I'm too sensitive, there was a lot of things balancing out that. Balancing out that sensitivity.
You wanted me to go with a lot of that stuff. Yeah, I wish I would have.
A lot of big fast cars, big trucks.
You're gonna have to show me your Starboard session.
Oh no, I will.
The full thing.
Yeah, for sure.
I'll probably upload it to the YouTube channel.
I don't think those are spell magic. Like what I think is significant is the fact that Pluto is in play. The fact that we're having a conversation about it. Like no one's talking about Neptune. But it is in the
a lot of Uranus talk too. Uranus and Pluto, I think, and Jupiter get the most action. Actually, Venus too.
Venus gets a lot of action.
It's funny you mentioned Neptune because Neptune is kind of like the redheaded stepchild. Am I allowed to say that still? Is that like...
that's bad.
Oh, I hate crime.
You just crossed the line.
I hate crime. Again.
The redheaded stepchild? Yeah, that's
bad.
I've got a couple markers in my mind when watching the cultural norms change and when the redheaded stepchild is no longer being able to say. That's definitely one of the lines I have, which I'm like, all right, we crossed a new threshold.
Yeah.
Did we just cross it?
No, it's been.
I don't know. I think we can still say it.
We'll find out. We're gonna find out one way or another.
Right. Make a yeah, exactly.
And there was also some interesting stuff about the rise, the sunrise at my birth, and another planet rising right behind it, or it was right on the cusp behind it.
Yes, and right I apologize, Grant, because
no, it's okay.
I think I've done 5 other charts since the last time I saw your chart, so it's not fresh in my head.
I wanted to get Darren to giggle over the sensitivity thing, and that's all I wanted. So it's good.
Yeah, I mean, you got a sensitive chart, my friend.
Well, you'll have to let me know how mine looks.
Well, let's talk about before we do that. Do you explain the pulling of the cards?
Let's do on the fly.
At the beginning, because
fuck it, we'll do it live.
That was I don't know if you wrote down the cards you pulled at the beginning of the session either, but that was interesting.
Those cards. I'm coming around to the cards. Lisa pulls cards.
So
blows my fucking mind sometimes.
Yeah. Okay.
Particularly because it's what's called a cold reading. Like I don't have any information. Well, I've got a little bit of information from you because you're a public figure, but for the most part, I don't. And I'm just going off of a chart. And so it's very intuitive, but I usually like to have some sort of direction. So I pick cards. And whatever, and from two different decks, and I like to play them off of each other. One of them is a deck which is all about life is a journey, and I like that as a value system, like to approach our experiences like, we're a hero in our journey. And then the other one is a deck of the I Ching, which is the oldest divination system that they tell us about. And so I like to pick them, and then like whatever I see, and I'm like, that's how I position the reading. Refresh my memory what your cards are, because I think I know where.
Jesus, so was funny, it? Because I was just thinking
yours had something to do with
working with the spoiled. Working with the spoiled was something spoiled
yes.
on the first card, and then the second card was quite relevant as well. Yeah, it made me think about
that from your working with
addiction and stuff. Well, it made me think of going through addiction and coming out on the other end, and it just seemed to fit with some of what I've been through in life and where I'm at right now with the way you pulled those two cards. I can't remember what the second card was either, but it sort of added some depth to the whole thing.
I appreciate that feedback. I do remember exactly how I was feeling when that happened, and sometimes when you do readings, particularly like this, when it's cold and cold being like, there's no feedback. There's not you're not in the same room as me. I can't tell if I'm making you uncomfortable or if I'm making you're like, oh yeah, keep going. Like you don't have anything like that. And my preference when doing these readings is I like to focus on what would be considered the darker aspects or the shadow. And the reason why I like to do that is like, one, everyone's got one. So that's part of like, this experience of being whatever we are. But we feel like there's something wrong with us because we have them. And when we can go and look and be like, no, this is what the archetypes of the heavens mean. And you see it up here, and it's like, this is part of the experience. And so we honor that and we understand it, but there's no real like shame about it, and there's no guilt. It's like, this is part of what I'm working with, and I know what I work with. This is where I grow. This is where like all things are possible, because if there was nothing to work with, no one will get out of bed.
Yep.
It's okay to not get out of bed sometimes, especially when it's cold.
All right. Yeah, you are in Canada, so I guess I have to respect that.
We've been lucky so far, though. I think it's about to get cold, though. I think it's coming. We do have a question from the chats here. From Lee Larvey Coswald. Ask Michael how someone would, he says do the reading, but I assume he means get the reading. If some of our listeners want to track you down and get a session, how does that work?
You could go to SusquehannaAlchemy.com, and you could go and book one right there.
There'll be a link in the show notes.
There's like a description of all of what the reading looks like. There are a couple different types, different ways which I do it, but yeah.
How long does it usually take?
And
mine was like over an hour and a half. Yeah.
How long does it take? About an hour?
Well, they're not they're not live, or they're not interactive. So I do, probably between 90 minutes to 2 hours in the reading. I get up and there's some technical stuff, and then I edit it and I do some other things, and upload it. It takes forever to upload. That's the hardest part. It takes overnight to upload. And then the person receives it. So they get a link to like Dropbox, and then they can download the video. Actually, I do 2 videos. Did you see the second video?
Yep. Yeah, that was pretty cool too. Yeah.
The sequel. So don't call it a sequel.
That's the subliminal. That's like the deep magic stuff. So you watch the first one. You should probably see it at least twice, I would recommend. And hold on to it. You might want to watch it like in a year or so, but like twice right away once you see it. But then afterwards, like, you're not going to go and spend, you got other things which is calling you. And so but there's something very, very significant which happens when you go through this and you have this experience. And I want to really help encourage that feeling to return. And so I condense that 90-minute or 2-hour video down into 2 minutes, and I kind of like stylize it so that, and you don't hear any words, you just listen to like maybe some piano music, really kind of like you're going to feel it, and you're watching your chart being built, and you're going through this experience, and it's just going back in your mind, and it's reminding you all of the stuff. Like you're not going to remember the details, but it brings that experience back from the back of your mind to the forefront. And the experience is ultimately about integration and really connecting with self and honoring you as an individual in your journey. And so whenever you watch that, or at least this is what my intention is with it, is that this is a way where someone like 2 minutes, like they can go and watch this if they ever need to, like, let me regroup. Let me tap into who I am. Like, this is a nice tool they can have.
Yeah. Yeah. It's fantastic. Looking forward to hearing what
I
Darren's
can't wait.
like.
Mine is I'm probably super sensitive.
You know what? I'm excited. So I thought about this because I got your birth information. I got your birth information like when I had too many other people. I didn't have space to do it before the call, and I knew that I was going to do yours after the call. But now I'm excited because I can have an interaction. I can talk to you in the video in a different way than I did with Graham because, I hadn't had the opportunity to meet you yet. So I like the fact that it's going to be different. And I know it to kind of focus upon now that we've had this conversation.
I'm more sensitive than I let on.
Most people are.
Graham lets on a lot, so that's why we know there's a lot under this, a lot of iceberg underneath.
A lot of steam puff.
A lot of steam puff and ice
stuff.
Yeah. You like that? I thought you'd like that though. Yeah, warm and fuzzy.
So, what kind of stuff are you looking at these days? Like any new research, any new things, any things you're peeling together? Like
right now, right now, I've been in a very creative mode, and I've been having a lot of fun with Instagram and doing all these digital collages and tying them into like different stories. So there's that. When the more research oriented, it's my attention has been it's not so much research as much as it is like thought.
Yeah, that's kind of what I mean. Yeah.
It is more so like thinking about like economics. Like, and I don't mean that like in a high-minded, like, what's the economy going to do? But more so, the environment of our economy. So we know that the economy is changing, whether our system becomes like some cryptocurrency system or whether it's,
off the dollar,
the loss of the petrodollar, whatever, like something is happening objectively. And usually when something there's this change happening objectively, there's also the opportunity for a change to happen subjectively, like more so like quality oriented. And also who lives in this area, this Susquehanna River at the 40th parallel, is an author you may know of, Charles Eisenstein. He's best known for a book called Sacred Economics. And I'm a little bit inspired by that. I'm thinking about this both as it relates to like, bigger things going on, but then also in my own life. And so I'm seeing this change with the economy and like, all of these things and people talking about, listening to people talk about sacred economics. And I've got a finance background. And the way it's been coming to me is, there seems to be, or at least the potentiality, and this goes more so to this idea of like, how do we want to relate to one another? Because human beings, economies make sense to us, regardless of time or place, we buy and trade with one another, like not just for necessity, but as a way to communicate with each other. This is one of the greatest things of like being human is like, you know, being able to go trade with other humans. And so buying and selling in economics is important. And there's this, the way we do it now, or the way it has been very yang oriented. And what I mean by that is it's very Mars, it's very outward focus. It's like, you know, I'm going to define the terms. I'm going to go and there's competition and there's limited customers and I got to fight, and like, you know, hoard and all this sort of stuff. So that's kind of yang oriented. And I'm not saying that with any sort of judgment. I'm just saying, like, you know, that's the quality associated with it. So as we change, and we're certainly seeing changes everywhere, what would yin economics look like? And so yin economics is much more, it's receptive. And it's, as opposed to being based upon this idea of limitation, it's much more so about like it's trust. If I make a good enough thing, if my content, if what I produce in the world and what I want to go and trade for, you know, if it's of the caliber of a certain level, well, it just takes care of itself.
Yeah.
That's kind of what
it's the donation model. I mean, that's what's happening now.
But so this is the thing. The donation model rubs me the wrong way.
Oh, whoa.
It really because there's something really empowering about going out and making it happen. But it doesn't always work. Like, so the donation.
What do you mean by that? How does that?
But I think there's a tweak, and this is where my mind has been. So it's every economy. Like they make economics so difficult. Like, you know, what's the health of the economy? So economies, we're going to deal with, like, let's just say like a small economy. Let's say you live in in a small village. All economies are based upon this: the faster the speed of money, the faster people are buying and selling, the better the economy. And so it's like, you know, you're a painter and like you get a job and like then you go out and you buy something from the lady next door. And as long as it's going around fast and fast and fast and fast, like that's what keeps things good. You know, that's when the economy is good. And so we're seeing all of these changes take place, and the infrastructure is in place, and it's been kind of set up in this donation model. But imagine if everyone's just like, you know, I'm looking at Patreon, and we're also moving to this model of, as all the jobs as everything's becoming automated. Is anything and everything that can become automated or roboticized, it's going to happen. And so you're going to see like a lot of people who are, there are going to be changes. And one way is there's probably going to be like much more, whether you want to call it welfare or universal income or something like that. But it's definitely a dependency upon the state. But what also is opening up is we're becoming we went from like a manufacturing economy to a service economy, and we're going to a creation economy. We're all going to become content creators for those who choose to participate. Like you guys are content creators.
For our AI overlords? Do you give any? For our AI overlords? Because I mean, there's that spin on it, right? You hear the AI people saying that the AI is going to feed on content.
Well, the interesting thing you're talking about is this new economy. And really what we're seeing now is I think we're at the peak of how is this going to go? Is this going to go where we are free to create what we want and take donations from people on whatever platform? Or is it going to be a complete clampdown from Visa and MasterCard, who are controlling the whole global donation-based model? I mean, they're in control right now, and they're not, and they're starting to censor people. So, and they're starting to censor. So, what are we going to do now when we're not allowed to say certain things, or people can't put their money on their credit card for us? Like that's really like that's right around the corner. Like
then we start selling cookbooks.
I would imagine that. I mean, particularly from a holistic perspective, like seeing that that's part of the environment we're in, that whenever something shuts down in the environment, something else, like the solution shows itself. And again, this this is both a permaculture type of mindset, but it's also an optimistic mindset. I think I'm imagining breakaway societies. I mean, that's my mind.
Yeah.
There can't be any other way. And how that happens, like, I don't know about your world, but my world is getting weirder and weirder.
Yeah.
Like, just like in terms of like synchronicities and things just like showing up, and, you know, whether we call that the Mandela effect or whether we call it like, you know, ascension,
magic,
whether we call whatever, like there's the flipping of the magnetic poles. Like, I don't know what's going on, but like something does seem to is changing. And in my personal world, what I'm witnessing, not just in my own experience, but people who I know, I like the direction it's going. And so as we're seeing some of these other things like clamp down, like it's forcing, I think it's going to force us in a direction which is going to make sense. You know, you can't fight that. Like, I don't want to be in someone else's system. Yeah. And if they don't want me in that system, I don't want to be in it either.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good point. Yeah. That's a good way to look at it. I kind of figured you'd have an interesting take with your, you know, your positive outlook on things.
And then the rebel side is you just game those motherfuckers and start up like 3 side accounts doing something else. It's like, yeah, Graham's fucking life coaching. Comes with podcast. I mean, comes with the podcast.
You're absolutely right, because the gaming, there's something going on with gaming, right? And I don't even just mean like the like video games. I mean like how the secondary and tertiary markets are becoming even more exciting than like primary markets, whether that's derivative markets or fantasy football, like, you know, all of the real actions going on like somewhere else. Yeah. And so that's a trend. That is a trend.
So Darren likes to rate synchronicities here. If you do remember a fresh synchronicity, we do talk about them on the show all the time. It happens to listeners. Like, listeners send them in. I mean, we have the most crazy listener synchronicities that we talk about all the time. Talk about our own. So if one of those, you know,
I will rate yours favorably.
Got any in the top of your head?
Think of
you still got my chart. I can't be fucking with the guy that's playing with my future.
This will be like one of the only 10s, no matter what the synchronicity is, just so Darren gets a good reading.
So, all right, here's a synchronicity. This happened a month ago. So my birthday was December 2nd. So it happened on my birthday. It happened on my birthday weekend. And the last 4 years have been a wild ride for me. They've just been a wild ride. And my birthdays haven't necessarily been the best birthdays, but this was my first good birthday in a long time, like where everything was very good. And so, hell, I'll tell you this one. So this was last year on my birthday. So last year on my birthday, this guy doesn't know me, and he is traveling through town, and we have a mutual friend. His mutual friends, our mutual friend gave him my number. He's like, hey, you're going to go through Marietta. Check out my friend Mike, and he'll give you a tour because you like all sorts of weird stuff. And so the guy calls me up, and he's like, hey, I'm coming through town. He's like, well, if you give me a tour of town, I'll take you out to dinner. I'm like, deal. And then so we go. I give him a tour, and he doesn't know it's my birthday. And so we go and we have dinner. He had his daughter with him, and we had a nice conversation. And then when we're getting ready to leave, and I'm thinking that I hadn't had the best birthday for a variety of other reasons, like what was going on in my life. And right when I'm walking away, he's like, you know what? He's like, I got this book in my car. And he opens it up, and he's like, I don't know why I have this, but maybe you would like it. And he gives it to me. And again, he doesn't know it's my birthday. So I get this birthday present. And a lot of my research is based upon like Manly P. Hall's, a lot of like what I show is happening comes from Manly P. Hall's Secret Teaching of All Ages, which is his most well-known book. And there are all of these different versions of it. And I have the reader's version. It's the one which they sell in Barnes and Noble, which I'm always thinking, I know they cut out all of the good stuff, you know, if this is Barnes and Noble. But this guy gives me this incredibly rare volume of that book, which I use all the time on my birthday.
Wow.
Fast forward 1 year later. So this birthday, and this was the kickoff of my birthday. A friend of mine, again, who used to live in town, she comes in town and she's with her. She's got 2 young children, and she says, hey, why don't you come and join us out to dinner? And so I'm like, all right, again, I'm going out to dinner. I'm taking out to my dinner on my birthday. They don't know it's my birthday. And I mention it's my birthday at dinner. And then it turns out that the children baked a cake that day. I didn't know why. They baked a cake. So they all go and they have this surprise party. There's a lot more to the story, which I'm not comfortable sharing on this because of some of the personal nature. But those are 2 synchronicities that lined up both in time and space, and having specific meaning to me in the fact that it was my birthday, and both of them were gifts. It came with gifts.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I wonder if it has anything to do with your birthday ayahuasca ceremony.
Nah, it sounds
Maybe
fun.
that's where it started. You did tell
My birthday ayahuasca story?
Weren't you?
When I was down.
Because that was another weird
God,
birthday story too, you know?
Yeah. I want to hear the rating. What's the rating?
I'll give it a 7.
A 7? There's more data. If I could give you that more data, I know it would be a 9.
I know. I'm trying to get that data out of you right now.
No, I'm not going to. I'm like, I want to, and like I hesitate.
Email it in anonymously.
Yeah, when you
send them,
when you send them the chart, like you can supplement it a little bit.
Yeah, when we do the chart,
that's fair enough.
We'll privately go through it.
And then we'll talk about it on the show.
That's right.
Not the
yeah, and then we'll fucking boom.
That's awesome.
Right on.
Yeah.
Anything else to get into?
I think that's about it, which I'm working with right now.
You know what? We should have sent in the Grimerica
really
birthday.
The creative stuff and getting into more so about how being human and relating to humans. Like before we can even understand how we're relating to each other, and particularly the whole male-female sort of thing, it's like, I don't think we know what we are as individuals first. And just having this sort of conversation of like, you know, the mechanism of what it is to be human and figuring it out, like as it relates to like the river and all of these other things, like what are these pointing to, you know, and this time, like, you know, what is technology? What is this pointing to? What does this suggest about us and our environment? That's really what I'm excited about, because that's the most real thing. Like at the end of the day, if we could take care of all of the other things, like, you know, the clamping down of the system or the money or the economy, it's like we still need to figure out who we are, what we are, and how we relate with one another.
Yeah. Well said. And just before I forget, if I'm going to put the pictures of my Starboard from you on our Instagram. So if people want to see it,
isn't it a
check
video?
out our Instagram. Well, I took a couple screenshots of the whole thing too. So
can we put the video on the YouTube, or is it too personal?
I don't know.
Can you do like what do they call it when like the people talk over while the show is playing? Commentary. You could do a commentary on your star chart for the YouTube channel. No, is that too much? Could you do a reading for the birthday of the Grimerica?
What is that date?
I don't know. So would it be the day that we launched the website and the Facebook and the YouTube and stuff, or would it be the day the first podcast came out?
Well, they're different. And so I would look at them differently. I would say those are both significant. I would say the first one is the birth date. I mean, yeah.
The first one is December 21st, 2012.
Nice date. That's a nice.
That's the day I was actually looking through it the other day. That's the YouTube, the Facebook were both created, and the day that I don't have a time. No, just December 21st, 2012 for YouTube, Facebook, and the first Grimerica.ca. And then the podcast was May 23rd, 2013.
May 23rd. So I ask this to people all the time, if they remember where they were on December 21st, 2012. And almost every single person's like, no, I have no idea. I know I remember where I was, and I think it's cool that you guys know where you were. And what's interesting is this is way before anything. Like, I didn't even know anything about the Susquehanna River. Like, it wasn't on my radar screen. But I went to someone's house, and we all went outside and we just looked at the river. They overlooked the river. And it was, when I look back now, at where my life is, and, whatever that event was, it was an event because it had so much collective consciousness into it, whether it was, and it seems to have been undoubtedly maybe because the expectation was set so high that something subtle would be missed. Seems like some shift in the system happened.
Oh yeah.
When
we look back, it's funny when we look back, let's say after 10 or 20 years, there'll be a significant shift. Yeah. People will go, they didn't realize it, but the world changed.
Well, there was for us anyway.
Yeah.
Got a little more Grimerican in it. Actually, you probably weren't helping. Yet. At that time, I don't think.
I was metaphysical.
At that time, you were still wanted to be the possibilionist.
I was still going to be anonymous at that point.
Do you know what his pseudonym was going to be?
What's that?
Possibilionist Genome. Could you imagine where we'd be at?
I do not know.
We'd be doing anime.
Know.
Anyways, well, it's good chatting, Michael. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, I suppose that's as good a spot as any to wrap it up. Huge thanks for coming on the show.
Oh no, this is, I like to come and talk. So to have the opportunity to do so is, it's a lot of fun for me. So thank you.
Right on. Hope some people check out the Starboard charts, and we'll follow your work and keep in touch and stuff.
Yeah, get some readings, people,
and also Instagram. It's I'm putting on a lot of stuff on Instagram, like interesting art stuff, but a lot of information and just all of these different things which I'm playing with, and I'm developing a model which I'm developing a model for the content. So if keep an eye on it because there are going to be some changes.
Right on. Good stuff.
All right.
Fuck yeah.
All right, thanks, buddy.
Right on. Thanks, Michael. I look forward to talking to you soon.
All right, gentlemen. Thank you very much. Try not to take it too hard this weekend because I think we're supposed to get hit, right? With something cold from Canada. So I'm assuming you in Canada are
it's getting there.
Having cold weather as well. So
I am ready for winter. It's okay. I'm prepared. I was in Manitoba a couple weeks ago. It was cold as a motherfucker. It's okay. Enjoy the Wawa.
That I will. That I will.
All right.
See you.
Bye.
Ciao for now. The button's not there anymore. I can't hang up the call anymore because I need a mouse. A wireless mouse.
We'll get you a mouse, buddy.
I need mice.
Donate to
multiple
Grimerican.
mice. Did you see never mind. We won't get into that now.
So, you know what? So, what? Yeah, that was interesting.
That was a fun one. Yeah.
I heard, it's funny how sometimes our own show, I hear more of what I wanted to hear from them on other shows. So that's a good sign.
Really?
The whole river thing and all that. But he does remind me of my friend Mark. Have you met my friend Mark yet?
Are you saying you like other people's interviews better than your own?
No, I like ours.
Oh, okay. You said that kind of weird that people might take it the other way. Your friend Mark? Yeah, Mark, the RH negative blood guy.
I don't know. I don't remember that part of him.
West Coast Mark?
No.
Local Mark?
Yeah.
Okay.
That we podcasted from the West Coast together?
Yes, okay.
I'm pointing to the West Coast, not you.
The West Coast is that way. This is West.
You really started annoying me. There's a crazy similarity between the two of them. And I'm not even sure if I should say it, but they both got hit from the knockout game.
I don't know what that means. What knockout game?
The teenagers are playing this game where they just knock people one time, like, pow, knock you out. sometimes a video of it, and sometimes it's like an initiation thing. They call it the knockout game. They try and Mark got his jaw broken. And he got hit with a skateboard.
Really?
Down the path with no hands, yeah. Both got, and it's funny because I was thinking, man, they remind me of the same guy, right?
The knockout game?
Got hit by the knockout game.
Do we really need to?
I know, we don't even want to give it any more attention.
No, that seems like a terrible game.
I know.
We should play that game. When I was a kid,
you'd be down in a second.
the knockout game was choking yourself out with your sweater till you fell over and got all lightheaded.
We did the breathing in a bag.
Oh yeah, or you see the one where you breathe real quick and then someone would push on your chest up against the wall. Yeah, bad ideas.
You're just like, yeah,
fucking sucks.
Crazy kids.
We should have our own knockout game going. We'll do it at CAC. If you come to CAC, we'll play the knockout. Graham and I are playing the knockout game all week.
We'll put up a portable ring and
wrestle.
Octagon.
Yeah, cage. 2 go in, 1 comes out. We could probably sell that fucker out quick if we build a cage. Anyway, big thanks to Michael for coming on the show. I can't wait for my reading. Can't wait for all that fun stuff.
I'll put the Starboard on Instagram. Yeah, that'll be good.
I'm interested, yeah. I wish I knew how to read those better. I really
This
need
will
to
be
watch
very
his
visual.
video.
This will be very visual.
I'll have to
for you.
watch
Yeah,
the video,
yeah.
though. I can't just look at the screenshots and know what the fuck's going on.
No, but it's just a beautiful thing as well. The board he made is very artistic and appealing, and it's a beautiful process.
Fuck yeah. Anyway, check it out. Get a reading from Michael. After you're on there, you're on the internets, you're going to Michael, you're signing up for your reading. You put some money in your PayPal account to do that. Got your credit card out. Head to Grimerica.ca/support. If you don't like PayPal, maybe head over to Grimerica.ca/stripe. You sign up for a monthly and you help support the show, guys, because, we've moved into this new space so we can grow the show. We bought these nice curtains to try and cut down the sound again. And we're just trying to make it here, trying to create some value for you guys.
Those curtains? I thought you.
No, I actually got them for free.
Oh, did you?
Why would you fucking say that?
I thought you would have bought a nicer color than.
It's Grimerica green.
Some like tan/green color.
No, you know what's funny is
I was thinking about what we can hang over them to hide the ugliness of them. But
what are you kidding me? Those are great curtains. Listen, Pink Floyd.
that'll go too. It's just to dampen it down to.
That is going to be there
Decorate a
in
bit.
2 years. That Pink Floyd thing is still going to be there, 100%. If we're still here, we might be canceled if more people don't head over to Grimerica.ca/support and sign up for a monthly, because we need the support, guys. We really do. We can't do the show without it. We wouldn't be where we are without those of you who are supporting. So thank you to you guys. And not only that, the other 99% of you that do enjoy the show for free, you should thank those guys as well, because they are the people that are responsible for producing this podcast. So head over to Grimerica.ca/support. Start out 2019 with a clear conscience and a couple dollars a month, less than the price of less than the price of a cup of coffee a month. Support the show. Also, sign up for the newsletter, Grimerica.ca/news. We got pictures of Graham in there and stuff like that. He takes pictures of me sometimes in my funny pants. It's turning into a fun little thing going on there. The newsletter is a whole lot of fun. What else?
Sign
Instagram.
up.
Everything in the show notes. Just do everything in the show notes once, and you don't have to do it again.
Review us on iTunes.
Oh yeah, no one's reviewed the show in a while. Go review the show. Grimerica.ca/iTunes. And also, if you sign up, you get the extra content, right? If you support the show, you get the extra content.
Any support, any sign up, like any monetary donation, monthly or one time, gets you like a black budget support feed link.
Yeah, and you also get access to the forums, all that fun stuff. Right on, guys. Do all that shit. And aside from that, have a great weekend. Have a great week. Have some good vibes. All right, guys. Thanks for listening. We will see you next week.
All right, motherfuckers! It's time to open up them caves you call ears. Cause there's a real shitstorm brewing, and I think you know what I'm talking about. In a world where our rights and freedoms go to the highest bidder, fuck 'em! Now listen up, son. Mayhem.